patients die after they were transferred to ill-equipped non-governmental organizations where they received substandard care, leading to their deaths. So why then? Why then, with all of those lessons, and despite all the vows of quote-unquote never again, have at least 2 patients died while under the care of the Northern Cape Mental Health Hospital and the Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe Hospital? Part of the answer to that question that the Health Ombud, Professor Daule Mokoena, has found is that for over a year, between 2022, late 2022 and last year, the Northern Cape Mental Health Hospital was operating largely without electricity, and its key equipment could therefore not be used when needed. As a result, Professor Mokoena has summed up the situation thus, and I quote here, "We found that during this time, when there was no electricity, patients were freezing to death literally." This is at the Northern Cape Mental Health Hospital. So it's a public facility. You would think that they would have taken in all of those lessons from Life Esidimeni, because if you remember Life Esidimeni, part of the findings in the NGOs included patients really feeling cold, being exposed to the elements, being exposed to pneumonia, which went untreated. Guess what? You find these elements as well in this. It's 2 patients, but it's 2 patients too many for a health system that is meant to have learned lessons on that. So at the top of 7 a.m., we will grapple with this issue with the Health Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, who was the original complainant on this issue. He will join me to unpack it all just at the top of 7 a.m., and that's at the top of the next hour, the first half hour of the next hour. TikTok, our time is up. South Africa has less than 24 hours left to finalize a trade deal with the United States and hopefully avert a punitive 30% tariff on most exports from our country to the United States. That tariff, 30%, is set to kick in from tomorrow unless a deal is struck today. Despite a framework being laid out that includes key concessions and offers from our side, it doesn't look like we will be able to get a deal over the line in the coming hours. It just looks unlikely. So what does it all mean? Well, a potential jobs and economic bloodbath, to be honest, for regions and sectors that depend on exports to the US market in particular. And so anxiety is gripping parts of the Eastern Cape, which is the beating heart of the country's automotive industry. The potential fallout is enormous. Plant closures, tens of thousands of job losses, and a social crisis that could deepen, some of the socio-economic situations such as crime and poverty in an already fragile situation and scenario and in those communities. And despite warnings from labor unions, business chambers and economists, the general feeling is that national government remains silent about what is the plan, because it does look like these tariffs will kick in, right? We don't seem to be on the verge of some 11th hour deal being struck. So there's that concern. So at about 7:20, we'll be speaking to Denise van Heijsten, who is the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber. Already we are seeing some of the fallout from it, the drop in the, in the number of exports, vehicles being exported to the United States that was reported. I think we covered that story not so long ago. So we will talk to Denise van Heijsten at 7:20. Lastly, did you notice that we're in the middle, smack bang in the middle of winter, and that app that is on your phone, that is known as ESP, Eskom's push, has not lit up in red with that power alert of the power grid being under pressure and telling you stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Eskom seems to be sailing further and further away from the shores of pervasive load shedding. And recently, the Minister of Electricity, Thulasizwe Simelane, congratulating Eskom for its significant progress in addressing issues that underpinned load shedding. Currently, we are told 8 out of the power utilities, 14 power stations are operating with an energy availability factor of somewhere in the region of 70% or higher, with one station, we are told, achieving 91.1% energy availability factor. So what's behind it all, and can we sustain it and see winter through without needing to resort to load shedding? That is the conversation we'll be having with Eric Schoenmagam, who is the Eskom engineering general manager in the office of the group executive for engineering at Eskom. So that conversation will be coming up just before we wrap up the show at about 8:45. So that's the conversation we will have with Eric. So all of your regular features, again, locked and loaded for you once again this morning, but also would like you to be a part of this conversation. The number to dial for that, 086 000 2032. Please send me WhatsApp voice notes. Let's engage. The number for that is 061 410 4107. Let's get the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, let's get your briefing session started with Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief. Melissa, good morning. Let's start at the Apex Court in the Constitutional Court in Braamfontein. Tell me about the sparring between the legal eagles yesterday, representing former President Jacob Zuma, his MK party on the one hand, and President Cyril Ramaphosa and others on the other hand.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Jacob Zuma and the MK party challenged President Ramaphosa's decision to place Police Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave and appoint Feroz Kachalia as acting minister. Ramaphosa's lawyers, led by advocate Kate Hofmeyer, argued the case should have started in the High Court as it doesn't fall under the Constitutional Court's exclusive jurisdiction. She emphasized that the president has broad discretion to manage his cabinet and warned that entertaining the case could flood the court with some challenges. Zuma's team, led by advocate Dali Mpofu, claims the issue was urgent and involved national security. Judgment was reserved yesterday, so this is one case that would have to watch and follow closely.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. The one side arguing that the president has one choice, hire or fire, as far as ministers are concerned. The other side saying that no, somewhere in between, there are other options that would include placing someone on special leave and suspending. It may not be spelled out, but it is a power that is implied in the powers of the president. So we look forward to hearing what the Concord will make of that. I was talking a few minutes ago about Eskom and load shedding and their ability to keep the lights on. Tell me what's been happening around the debt relief situation, the legislation that's moving in Parliament.
So the NCOP has approved Eskom debt relief amendment bill that helps Eskom manage its massive debt. This means that the changes give Eskom more breathing room to fix its operations. The plan lowers the financial pressure for the 2025 and 2026 year, which turns the support into a loan, which could later become a permanent investment. It also swaps a large 70 billion rand debt bill deal for two similar payments totaling 50 billion rand. So another 10 billion rand might be added in 2028 to this loan. The bill is now waiting for the president to sign it off. So this was quite an interesting development in Eskom's debt relief plan.
Yeah. And the political killings task team continues to be busy in KwaZulu-Natal. Tell me about the latest arrests that they've made in connection with the murder of the councillor, the DA councillor, Nhlalayenza Ndlovu.
Two more suspects, including a 56-year-old chief, have been arrested in connection with the December 2023 murder of DA councillor. The Ndlovu in KwaZulu-Natal. Ndlovu was shot 10 times outside his home in front of his family. One suspect allegedly coordinated the killing from prison. They face charges including murder and conspiracy to commit murder, and they will appear in court today. This brings a total number of suspects to 5. So this is also another case that we will be following quite closely.
And lastly, Melissa, if we thought yesterday was a big day in the Constitutional Court, today is going to be massive. Tell me about what's the judgment that's on the cards for 10 o'clock.
So today at 10 o'clock, judgment will be handed in the Supreme, in court. This will be the case between Vodacom and Machete in the Please Call Me case. So this will be quite interesting because it's been one that has been going on for years now. So we will be watching that and following that closely as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you for picking that up, Melissa. It is a massive one, as Melissa says. The way it is framed, the legal question that will be answered is judgment to be handed down on the 31st of July at 10 o'clock. Did the Supreme Court of Appeal disregard the true issues before it with the result that there was a total failure of justice in breach of the rule of law and the constitutional right to a fair hearing? That is the Vodacom Makate judgment that's coming up at 10 a.m. Melissa, thank you for that.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So several warnings coming through from the Weather Service. So let me get straight to it and then give you your highs and lows for the main centers. There's a yellow level 1 warning. It is for damaging winds, resulting in localized damage to temporary structures and localized power and communication interruptions. And that is expected in places over the northern interior of the Eastern Cape. Yellow level 2 warning. Damaging waves resulting in difficulty in navigation at sea and small vessels at risk of taking on water and capsizing in locality. That is expected between Saldanha Bay and Cape Agulhas on Thursday morning, spreading to Plettenberg Bay and Alexander Bay in the afternoon. Yellow level 2 warning, damaging winds and waves resulting in localized disruptions to harbors and or ports with small vessels at risk of taking on water and capsizing in locality. That is expected between Plettenberg Bay and Port Edward. And lastly, a yellow level 1 warning. It says disruptive snow resulting in icing on roads and disruptions in mountain passes in the high-lying regions between Graaff-Reinet and Komani, formerly known as Queenstown. So those are your warnings. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, fine with a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 21. Johannesburg, fine 2 to 20. Mbombela will be fine with a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 22. Polokwane, fine 1 to 22. Mahikeng will be fine and windy 5 to 21. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy at first, becoming fine and windy 5 to 21. Kimberley, fine and windy 9 to 22. Uppington, fine and windy 10 to 17. Cape Town will be cloudy with widespread showers and rain, mainly in the morning, becoming partly cloudy towards the evening, with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 14. George will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain, while becoming partly cloudy towards the evening, with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 15. Gqeberha, partly cloudy at first, otherwise cloudy in the afternoon, with scattered showers, 11 to 16. East London, fine becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with isolated evening showers, 17 to 25. Durban will be fine becoming partly cloudy by late evening, 12 to 25. Richards Bay will be fine with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 27. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg, fine 6 to 29.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
The Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, DWYPD, in collaboration with the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, Gauteng Provincial Government, Standard Bank South Africa and Absa Bank invite you to the Empower Her Market, celebrating women's economic power on the 1st of August 2025 at the Sandton Convention Centre. Under the theme, quote, Building Resilient Economies for All Women, Leading the Future of Trade, end quote. Tune in to The Talking Point as we shine the spotlight on women entrepreneurs as powerful drivers of South Africa's economy. Hashtag Rekaufela Basadi.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
A powerful 8.8 magnitude earthquake struck off Russia's far eastern coast early on Wednesday, triggering tsunami alerts and evacuations across the Pacific. This quake is tied as the sixth strongest ever recorded and has prompted widespread but largely precautionary responses across multiple countries. It generated waves that reached Japan, Hawaii, the United States West Coast, that is California, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska, and other Pacific nations. But no deaths have been reported and no major damage confirmed in the affected countries. Let's speak to climatologist Simon Geer, who joins me now. Simon, good morning. 8.8 on the Richter scale. It is massive. Tell me about what an earthquake on that scale in the Pacific, with the regions that I just mentioned, what fears it triggered and the relief that came with those fears not being realized.
Yeah, so obviously very, very big earthquake happened under the sea. So the concern is not so much for damage, physical damage from buildings and so on, although there was some damage on the adjacent Russian coast. But obviously the concern is for the tsunami, and that area very, very sensitized to the danger of tsunamis after the 2011 wave that did such damage to Japan, and obviously the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami, which is in a different basin that was across the Indian Ocean, but still, we have a species memory of how dangerous these things are. So obviously, significant concern, and the warnings went out right the way around the Pacific basin, and the wave was measured as far away as South America and the east coast of the US and so on, but didn't seem to have done too much damage.
And Simon, as you talk about that, we then saw that there was a volcanic eruption that occurred not far from where the epicenter of the earthquake was. What's that about?
Yeah, so that's almost certainly related. These volcanoes often lie along fault lines, which are, the same fault lines which generate earthquakes. So obviously this earthquake just loosened everything up a little bit, and then it was the Kluchevskoye volcano which started erupting on that Russian peninsula.
And then in terms of the resultant waves, the science of it, Simon, the way I understand you to be explaining it, is similar to previously devastating earthquakes and resultant tsunamis. But the tsunami waves that were triggered on this one were not as destructive. What's the science behind that?
So the potential destructiveness of a tsunami is dependent on so many different things, and it'll vary from place to place, even on the same coast, because it's got to do with how shallow the water is off the coast of your particular town, or the angle that your coastline is away from, from where the wave was generated and so on. So I think the reason that it wasn't of more danger to Japan was that it occurred north of the North Island of Japan, north of Hokkaido. And so if you think of Japan, it's a long, thin chain of islands that stretches from north to south. So it was really only that north coast of Hokkaido which would have received, an immediate, unadulterated wave. And even then, it was the wave hadn't really had a chance to really build up energy before it hit that coast. And the rest of the coastline would have been protected by Hokkaido because the rest of Japan sort of falls in the lee of of that northern island relative to where this happened. The wave that caused such devastation to Japan a few years back, that was out to the east of Japan, and so that wave just came in against Japan's east coast without anything really being able to protect it.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Simon Gear, climatologist, reflecting on that earthquake that occurred in Russia, triggering tsunami warnings across many nations on the Pacific.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
It's a very good morning to you. Let's start with the Bafana attacker Keegan Dolly voicing his frustration over the way South African footballers are treated once they reach the age of 30. Dolly, now 32, recently parted ways with TS Galaxy after completing a season with the club. The experienced forward is part of the Bafana squad preparing for the upcoming African Nations Championship tournament in East Africa and describes a troubling trend.
I think it's just to show the desire on the field, still to show your hard work and your intentions, I think talking alone won't help, but proving that you can still compete and still be the role model for the youngsters, being a part of a club. So yeah, it's just for me to still keep working hard and aspire the other youngsters.
In the meantime, Cape Town City's successful appeal against the PSL's disciplinary committee could shake up the Betway Premiership. The case centres on Galant's use of Monde Mpameniso, who was allegedly ineligible due to missing clearance paperwork. Now, if City succeed, Galant's could be docked up to 28 points, plunging them from 10th to 15th and forcing a reshuffle of the promotion relegation playoffs. The dispute may even head to the High Court if unresolved. Elsewhere, Liverpool teenage sensation Rio Ngumoa capped a 3-1 friendly win over Yokohama F. Marinos with a stunning solo goal to underline his rapid rise to the Reds' first team. Cricket news, England captain Ben Stokes ruled out of the fifth and deciding test against India with a shoulder injury in a devastating blow for the home side. And in cycling, Mauritius' Kim Lacour Pinar has made history, becoming the first African to win a stage at the Women's Tour de France. The 29-year-old sprinted to victory in Stage 5, a grueling 166-kilometre ride, reclaiming the coveted yellow jersey. Now she leads France's Pauline Ferrand-Prévot by 18 seconds. We'll be back with more sport, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, advocate Dalimpofu has argued that it was unlawful for President Cyril Ramaphosa to have placed Police Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave and appoint Professor Feroz Kachalia to act in his position. Mpofu represented former President Jacob Zuma, who's lead of the MK party, in the Constitutional Court application brought by the MK party. Organizations advocating for the rights and protection of children have raised concerns over the viral video depicting a mother encouraging a 4-year-old son to light up and smoke the drug Mandrax. And Canada has become the latest Western power to announce plans to recognize a Palestinian state. France and Britain have made similar announcement in the past week as international pressure builds on Israel to reach a ceasefire in Gaza. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, starting in Joburg with delays building up along the N3 corridor. There's a crash coming in for a straight view just by the N17 around airport interchange. 4 vehicles involved in that. And once you get past that, you're in the heavy stuff from Elands all the way up to a stationary truck blocking 2 lanes at Van Buren Road. So basically from Grey Avenue to Bedford View, it's starting to build quite heavily. Into Durban off the south coast this morning, N2 just queuing up to get onto the M4 Southern Freeway. A little obstruction as you come off the N2 and link onto that southern freeway. So Durban bound, quite slow on the N2, just passing the Prospecton area. Looking okay at Cliffdale, no major problems reported at this stage. On your way out of Durban towards Pietermaritzburg and Cape Town, not only wet but windy this morning as well. So conditions pretty rough, will be wet all through drive time. Make sure you got plenty of extra time to get through it and get through it safely. N2 inbound passing Khayelitsha, heavy to the airport, and the N1 already backlogging through the rain from Belleville right through to the Sable Road exit. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling. And Ndauling, let's start with the U.S. economy expanding in Q2. This is music to Donald Trump's ears.
Definitely, Thulasizwe. Morning. An upbeat quarter for Washington, with the economy growing 3% in Q2, exceeding expectations and reversing the 0.5% decline that was recorded in the first quarter. Now, this growth was driven partly by a surge in consumer spending, which rose 1.4% in the quarter. The decline in imports, which subtract from the total GDP, was a major contributor to the economy, with imports falling 30.3% after a 37.9% surge in the first quarter. Despite concerns about the impact of tariffs on the economy, consumer spending remained strong. Economists, in the meantime, say the overall economy remains solid and shows no signs of crumbling. Bernard Yaros, lead U.S. economist at Oxford Economics, said beneath the top-line figure, the economy is switching to a lower gear, but not going in reverse. Yaros added that consumers are slowing but not switching off their spending, which accounts for roughly 2/3 of economic activity.
And on the monetary policy side of things, the Fed standing pat, to use your expression.
Yeah, something Trump won't be too happy about. So Powell and his team of policymakers leaving rates unchanged, with the federal funds rate remaining in the range of 4.25 to 4.5%. This decision was made despite pressure from President Trump to lower rates. Interestingly, though, two Fed governors, Michelle Bowman and Christopher Waller, both appointed by Trump, were dovish, arguing that rates should be cut by 25 percentage points. Now, the Fed's decision reflects the current economic conditions, where the unemployment rate remains low at 4.1% and labor market conditions are solid. We just spoke about the economy, which really remains resilient. But inflation still somewhat of a concern, as it remains somewhat elevated, not at the Fed's 2% target. And the central bank is saying that it's cautious about cutting rates due to uncertainty around the inflationary trajectory. Moving forward, market expectations now suggest a 64% probability of a 25 basis point reduction come September, but this is dependent on what happens on the tariff front and whether that starts filtering through to consumer prices.
All right, Ndauling, recap for us then how we closed yesterday and how those markets that have opened have set the tone for this Thursday.
So trade remains choppy, with U.S. markets closing mixed yesterday as Powell signaled that the Fed isn't ready to cut rates, dashing hopes of a September rate cut. Back at home, trade also mixed, with the all share just making it into the green, up 0.15%. Then over in the currency scene, trade jitters weighing on the local unit as SA rushes to seal a deal before that August 1st deadline. It is nearing the local unit that is nearing the 18 Rand mark at 17.97 to the dollar this morning. Tariff concerns also knocking Asian markets lower. Stocks in that region trading mostly in the red. And lastly, over in the commodity scene, oil remains stable. It is trading at $70 per barrel this hour.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. I will get another update from Ndauling just after 7:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And for that, we turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Let's start in the DRC. I see that in Kinshasa, this trial, this military trial against former President Joseph Kabila continues.
Refreshing morning to us and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, to us, remember we did report about this trial when it started last week, Friday, that it will return to the courts today. But let's look at the history of this trial, to us. You look at the elections of 2018. Just after that, 2019, there was an attempted coup. In 2021, there was Kabila was formally charged with high treason, illegal assembly, and inciting insurrection in June 2021. Now, this is an ongoing legal battle to last for 2022 until now. And who are the figures who are in this trial? Felix Tshisekedi Thulas is the head of the government. It is his government initiating prosecution against the former president. Lambert Mende, he was a former communication officer of Kabila. He is also facing the charges relating to the alleged coup. General Kayembe, he was a former military intelligence chief accused of leading that coup. And various military officials who are being charged for conspiracy. So this is a very important trial that we can look at. But what are the repercussions of it to us when one looks at the implications? Conviction might lead to a lengthy sentence for Kabila and his allies, but it will also affect his party and polarize the political landscape. Acquittal, it might set back Tshisekedi's government and raises the question about the independence of judiciary. Lastly, to last, an impact on regional stability. This outcome will have an important outcome in terms of the DRC-SA geostrategic importance in Central Africa. And that's how Thulas one see this trial, that it will be an ongoing trial even in 2025.
Yeah. And then in Angola, Sipho, we knew that there was a lot of violence in that unrest that was related to the fuel price increases, but we only now getting the full extent and the full picture of just how deadly it turned out to be.
Absolutely, Thulas. But let's take listeners back. This is not for the first time, Thulas, we see this in Angola. 2023, similar subsidy cuts happened, and they were backed by the IMF. There was fatal protest. Yesterday, the presidency added the numbers to last week. Yesterday, it talked about 4 people losing their life, 500 people are arrested. Now we are talking about 22 people who have lost their lives, 197 injured, 1,214 arrests, and the damage to 66 shops, 25 vehicles, and looting of multi-supermarkets and their warehouse. And this unrest to us is being triggered by what government has done on what they call a slash diesel subsidy. It has caused this looting in Luanda. I hope the head of state will have to deal with this to us, because it will definitely affect his chairpersonship at the AU level.
Yeah. And lastly, Sipho, I don't believe that a Rastaman like you, I don't believe that a Rastaman knows who Ciara is.
I don't know at all, Thulas, but I know that Ciara, they said there was this song of him, 1 and 2 steps and goodies. I don't know those goodies.
So
from R&B.
Despite you not knowing about Ciara, tell me about Ciara and Benin.
Thulas, we're talking about a Grammy winner here who has been given the citizenship of Benin under the new slavery descended law. This is very important to us, looking at that many African diaspora, they've been moving towards the African continent. Now, this is interesting. Benin joins other countries like Ghana, Guinea, Bissau that has been offering citizenship to the people of African descent. You will recall Benin also at some point, it has offered Spike Lee and his wife as their brand ambassadors to us. But now Ciara has been given this citizenship, and he said that thank you, Benin, for opening your arms and your heart to me.
Yeah, it's part of a broader movement that is about, a door of return. If you reverse that whole concept during slavery of door of no return that existed in many countries where the slave trade occurred, many African Americans, speaking of the concept of the door of return to Africa. Lastly, tell me about what happened in our historical archives, the 31st of July, 1981.
Thulas, I'm looking at this as we are sealing the International Mandela Month, going to the Women's Month tomorrow, that on this day, 44 years ago, the Federation of South African Women President and the first person to be banned under the 1976 Internal Security Act, was banned for the second time again. Thulas, we are talking about Fatima Meya, who was born in 1928 and passed away in 2010 from KwaZulu. He was banned because the first ban was relating to the trying to organize a rally with Bantu Biko. And this is a woman who was also initiating the Free Mandela campaign in 1981, calling for the release of Nelson Mandela and all political prisoners. Very important historical archive to us, connecting also with the Africa Women's Day today, that in 1962 in Tanzania, this day was put aside to celebrate the women of Africa. That's how we see it to us this month of July, getting into the August month, a very important month to us.
Yeah.
It's a national convention coming. There is a SADC summit coming in Madagascar. So we'll touch a lot when we enter the Women's Month in August. Asante sana Thulas.
Great stuff.
SAFM still leading the
and listen to Sierra at some point today.
Okay,
Sipho
Thulas, I'll
Mantula.
try.
Sipho Mantula with the Africa update there.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2 from 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30, or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
For the love of the game.
Extraordinary doesn't just happen. It's built, brick by digital brick. With every connection, every innovation, every leap forward. A cloud that scales with your vision. Security that earns your trust. AI that empowers smarter decisions. IoT that connects what truly matters. Connectivity that bridges every gap. We're not just building technology, we're building the future of South Africa. Stronger businesses, thriving communities, a nation connected, empowered, and ready to lead. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Start your journey at vodacombusiness.co.za. Vodacom Business. Further together.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
All right, let's turn to the story now. The Johannesburg Metro Police Department, the JMPD, confirming the arrest of 3 individuals after a viral video surfaced showing a toddler allegedly smoking from a Mandrax-laced pipe. The shocking footage, which sparked widespread public outrage, led to a swift response from the JMPD's K9 unit, culminating in the arrest of the child's mother and 2 others. Authorities have also launched an internal inquiry into a police officer's alleged delay in responding to the initial complaint. So let's speak to Fina Kodisang, who is the Soul City CEO. Good morning to you, Fina, and thank you for your time. It's a truly disturbing video. It raises a lot of questions about why a parent and any adult caregiver, someone looking after a child, would expose a child to that situation. What disturbed you the most, and what themes does it bring up for you?
Thank you very much, and very worrisome to see how we are normalizing, and I believe content making has become an issue for our country, because now we take things that are not supposed to even be things that we share, and things that get seen, and things that we do. We sort of make those normal things to share and distribute, and people have conversations as if it's normal, right? So we see a child endangerment in that video, severe violation of children's rights and safety, a public health crisis, because early exposure to substance can cause irreversible harm, right? We also see legal and ethical issues there. So, yeah, it's worrisome, I must admit.
What do you believe to be the context? This happened in New Clare, out in Joburg. But is this something that we believe could be happening in contexts where drug use and abuse is rife and rampant?
Definitely. I think where there's normalized drug use, like I said, then we don't see anything wrong with it even being done with children, right? And you can imagine when that space is like that, what else that can harm children happens. There could be sexual exploitation, there could be physical abuse. There's a lot of violations that can result from that space where, we normalize such behaviors and we then don't do safeguarding of children in such environments.
And is this one of those cases where the systems meant to protect children actually kicked in? And is that the norm, or is this the exception, that in many instances those systems, such as the responsiveness of the police officers, such as the child being removed from that environment, is that the norm, or is that an exception to the norm?
It should be the norm. I don't know in other cases how quickly the system kicks in, but it's good to see that when such is reported, there's quick response, because any minute extra in that space would kill the child, right? So that is why, for me, the fact that safeguarding happened and there was quick reaction should be something that we amplify. And in fact, we should even not just talk about cases like this without creating awareness broadly in terms of what child safeguarding is, what child safety is, what digital exploitation is, and what risks children are exposed to in communities, whether it's drug use communities, whether it's mainstream communities where children live, but their safety is not safeguarded. We need to do campaigns where we raise awareness, and everyone must be involved in such. In Tswana we say, "Ngwana o kgodisa ke setšhaba," right? Raising a child should be everybody's responsibility, and we are all accountable for this child.
Yeah, say a bit more about that then, because the exposure of this video on social media, as you said, content creation, it's quite easy these days because of the amount of content we are exposed to keep scrolling. You see something and you shake your head and you keep scrolling. What remains the responsibility of all of us in society for the protection of children, even in the digital age?
When you see such videos, instead of sharing, because as we share, we are also, exploiting these children, because then you have people who are targeting such children, then you are exposing these children. That's why POPI Act also speaks of, what can be shared, what mustn't be shared, and who then takes accountability when such content is made viral, right? But people who see it and continue sharing without actually alerting authorities, because you can alert social workers in your community to say, I have seen this video, especially because we know the area. I have seen this video, it's from Johannesburg South. If it's from there, what can be done to help this child? That's the accountability we all have, instead of just posting, liking, without taking any call to action on ourselves to say, let's act to save this child, because what if there are many more children like that?
100%. Thank you for that. That's Fina Kodisang, who is the CEO of Soul City.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Quite a few incidents on Gauteng highways this morning. One on the N1 going north. It's a crash between Beyers Nordia and Malabongwe Drive. Traffic very quickly parking back to 14th Avenue. A crash south of that on the N1 north at Deepcliff. So some delays coming up from the Golden Highway from sort of Eldorado Park up into Devlin up to the Deepcliff interchange. And all sorts of chaos on the N3 and N12 this morning. A crash running northbound on the the N3 before the Rand Airport N17 interchange. Another crash just up the road by Cement Factory, so that's having an additional impact not only on the N3 but also on the N12 out of Alberton, and then a truck losing its load and up by Van Buren, so some lane closures there, causing additional delays from Heldenay. So really sort of coming from Grey Avenue or Ford Trekker Road on the N3 and N12, traffic all the way through to Galuli's. Crash on the M1 South at Samram, traffic parking back into Bruckfontein, and the mighty Mopani Highway standing this morning from Theo Martins all the way down through to Eskom Valley, a touch heavier than normal it is on that route. Collision seen on the R59 as well, coming in from the Vaal just before the Rand Vaal exit. Expect some delays there, a couple of trucks involved in that crash. Durban N2, the N2 going north up to the M4, there's a crash on that link coming off the N2 at Prospect and onto the Southern Freeway. Some queuing pressure there. Cliffdale looks all right, which is important to know if you're heading out to Pietermaritzburg. And Cape Town, wet and windy. Got a fallen tree already on the Steenberg Road down at Westlake by Redham Avenue. That's a very busy route, so it's going to be extra slow. We've got some flooding on Ford Trekker Road by the cemetery at Kensington, coming through from Goodwood on your way to Maitland. Some additional delays and just busy highways and byways because of the prevailing conditions. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Harambee Stars want to shine at night with maximum points, while Central Africans, DR Congo, eye 3 points to settle in Group A. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Experience Kenya versus Democratic Republic of the Congo this Sunday, 3 August at 2 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me actually start with one or two voice notes. In fact, just building up and just building up from that conversation we just had with Fina Kodisang regarding that disturbing video of a child, being exposed to drugs and, using drugs at the behest and encouragement of the adults in the house, including allegedly the mother of the child.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Sean here from Centurion. Thanks for a great show. Just two things regarding that poor little baby having to pull on that Mandrake's pipe. If you watch him lighting that pipe, it's not the first time he's done it. And how sad that is, because he's now on the back foot for the rest of his life, because he's going to have to fight that addiction.
Yep.
And secondly, there's so many people in the world who want kids who don't have kids. And his hearts are saddened. You would have been brilliant parents to a child like that. Anyway, thanks for a great show.
Yeah, it truly is heartbreaking to see that kind of an early exposure. And as you say, these things do lead to addiction, and it can become, a problem that the child will grow up having to deal with, over many, many years.
Gore. Thulas, you see, we are talking about, the lady is talking about not sharing the content. And sometimes it may be for the good, that the sharing of this content of the child in the mandrakes may have now reached someone who took action. And if it was not shared, it may have taken long for someone to bring it to someone else's intention who will take action. So in life, everything has got advantage and disadvantage.
Yeah.
So the sharing may have been bad, but the sharing may have led to some quick action by someone in the authority or alerting the authority.
Yeah.
So there's good and bad in anything.
Yeah, I hear you, Kore, and thank you for that. It's that catch-22 situation, is it not? What do? Do you share it onwards, knowing that it features a child in a situation of exploitation of that child? Or the alternative could be, Kore, that the very first person who sees it and I don't know, maybe you don't know where it happened. I suppose, yeah, it is. It remains a catch-22 because that shared outrage also puts pressure on those who can act, including people who will be able to identify, to say, the child and scenario depicted in that video is my neighbor, and therefore I'm able to call on the authorities to say, please do something. What an age that we're living in, with all of these issues that become a conundrum, a moral conundrum. What do you do? Do you share it onwards, or do you immediately try and action it yourself? But when you lack the context of where it was taken, as God says, it then becomes a bit tricky. Spiwe in KwaZulu-Natal, good morning. You want to talk to me about issues of bail this morning?
Yes. Good morning. Basically, I've got two issues. One, I just need somebody, maybe who can clarify. I just need to understand this concept of giving somebody bail. Reason being, somebody will be caught on the scene with previous conviction, committing the same crime, and go to court and be given bail, and continue committing the same crime. So I just need to understand somebody who can educate us about the bail. And secondly, I want to understand if somebody can clarify with Constitution, what does it say about evaluating politicians? Because they still keep their benefits, but the crime is worse, unemployment. So what does it say about the performance of politicians? Thanks for that.
All right, Spiwe, thank you for that. Just on the issue of the evaluation of performance of politicians, my understanding is that the ultimate evaluation will come from you, the voter, at the next polls. You will either approve or disapprove of what you have seen. So therefore, that's the ultimate accountability. There are other measures within the system, for instance, to hold the president and the executive to account. They answer questions in parliament. They can be subjected to motions of no confidence. And if they act unlawfully or anything like that, they could be impeached. But ultimately, you are the decider. You are the judge. You are the one who decides that we like what we see and therefore we're going to endorse it to continue, or we simply don't like it and therefore we will put a stop to it. The issue of bail, I think we've done Bail 101, but it's always worth coming back to it because there's always a disconnect between what people observe when someone is granted bail and their understandings of what bail is about. For instance, the person that you talk about, when asked PWeb, that people that have committed crimes and have been released and now are back charged with another crime and then they are granted bail. Ideally, when you put that standard of, is it in the interests of justice for this person to be granted bail, ideally that should weigh against that factor, but it's just one factor out of many factors that are considered when someone is applying for bail. The key one being that this person will not evade their trial, will not seek to evade their trial. They will come back and stand trial, but also at the same time, the interests of justice being at the heart of it all. So I don't mind doing a Bail 101 with an expert one more time. It always is helpful and helps people to understand and react and respond properly when these situations do come up with that wealth of understanding. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 0800 60,000 today.
In our top stories, Mpofu argues decision to place Mchunu on special leave was illegal, and Canada follows France and UK with plan to recognize Palestinian state. Good morning. Advocate Dalimpofu has argued it was unlawful for President Cyril Ramaphosa to have placed the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, on special leave and appoint Professor Feroz Kachalia to act in his position. Ramaphosa announced Mchunu's special leave earlier this month in response to allegations made by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, about corruption among members of the judiciary and public office holders. Mpofu represented former President Jacob Zuma, who's leader of the MK Party, in the Constitutional Court application brought by the MK Party. He says while the Constitution allows for the President to appoint two ministers from outside the National Assembly, the clause does not make allowance for an acting minister.
This whole maneuver is about that. How do I save my friend and close political ally, give him a salary for the next 3 years, 5 years, God knows for how long, while he's doing nothing but keeps the bodyguards, the drivers, and all those things, and the title. But at the same time, I have someone who must look after the police. So then you think of this long, elaborate contrivance. But the law is very clear. You must do one or the other. You want Professor Kachalia, then you must dismiss Minister Mchunu.
The Northern Cape Health Department has welcomed the findings and recommendations by the Health Ombudsman after an investigation into the state of affairs at the Northern Cape Mental and Robert Sobukwe hospitals. The Health Ombud has released a damning report following the death of 2 psychiatric patients and the immobile state of another patient who remains bedridden. The department spokesperson Mandisa Merietlo.
We welcome this thorough investigation that was initiated by Minister Motsoaledi in October. The department wants to ensure the public that we are taking these findings very seriously and are committed to studying all the recommendations carefully.
Organizations advocating for the rights and protection of children have raised concerns over the viral video depicting a mother encouraging a 4-year-old son to light up and smoke the drug Mandrax. The mother and 2 others, aged between 28 and 36, have since been arrested and are now facing charges of child abuse. Action Society spokesperson Janita Dupree says the child, who has now been taken to a place of safety, will need counselling and protection.
I hope it was only a single occurrence, but it is such a traumatic thing that will carry through throughout his life if he doesn't get the proper counseling and support. This was captured on a video, but we see so many places where children are exposed to things that they are not supposed to be exposed to at a very young age. It is not acceptable, and it really does have a traumatic impact.
EFF councillor in the City of Cape Town Council, Umzubanzi Dambuza, has opened a criminal case against a security official who allegedly choked him to the point of unconsciousness. Good Party councillor Roscoe Palm says the incident happened when the Speaker of the City of Cape Town Council, Felicity Purchase, failed to maintain order in the chamber. Dambuza alleged the Speaker asked him to leave the chamber after he raised concerns about being ridiculed by DA councillors, and he refused to leave. He says he has laid a criminal complaint and police are investigating the matter.
First, when he started choking me, I said, "You are choking me, you are killing me." He did not listen to that. Then he gets me on my back, and then he starts continuing choking me. And you could see there's a rage with this guy, like he does not care as to what must happen with me. And none of the officers are stopping him around him. We, as the EFF, have gone to the police station. A detective is currently busy with the case. Statements have been taken from all these political parties that took footage of the incident. A case of assault is open.
And finally, Canada has become the latest Western power to announce plans to recognize a Palestinian state. France and Britain have made similar announcements in the past week as international pressure builds on Israel to reach a ceasefire in Gaza. The Prime Minister, Mark Carney, says the move in September depends on democratic reforms, including the Palestinian Authority holding elections next year without Hamas.
For decades, it was hoped that this outcome would be achieved as part of a peace process built around a negotiated settlement between the Israeli government and the Palestinian Authority. Regrettably, this approach is no longer tenable.
Recapping the top story, Advocate Dalimpofu has argued it was unlawful for President Cyril Ramaphosa to have placed Police Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave and appoint Professor Feroz Kachalia to act in his position. Ramaphosa announced Mchunu's special leave earlier this month in response to allegations made by the KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi about corruption among members of the judiciary and public office holders. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Good morning to you in your SFM. At the Cricket South Africa Awards, that's happening tonight, and we'll also bring you history being made. Kim Lacourt Pinar is in the yellow jersey, and that's what she is at the Women's Tour de France. The details just before 7:30.
This just in, Zandile, a 36-year-old woman, has added an unbelievable 918 rand a month, more money to her budget. That's right, she switched to Outsurance and now saves 918 rand a month on her 2024 Cherry Tiggo 1.5 litre. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. You always get something out. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Everybody heading out of Alberton and Germiston today on the N12 and N3 routes. All sorts of incidents down that way. A lost load at Van Buren, a crash near the cement factory, a crash after Grey Avenue. So big traffic coming out of Alberton. Germiston very slow on the way up to Gillies today. Collision leaving Benoni on the N12 by Atlas Road. Some queuing pressure there on your way to Boksburg. And a crash on the M1 North between Bayers, Nordeer and Malabongwe, causing big delays from Gordon Roadside. Also the N1 going into Deepcliff is being held by an earlier crash scene as well. Durban, the N2 going north stays busy on that ramp coming up from Prospect and onto the M4 Southern Freeway. That's the result of an earlier crash there. Further up, the N2 is heavy from the M7 through Westwood Mall, and the M4 coming out of Umhlanga starting to queue up down towards Virginia Airport. Cape Town flooding this morning on Four Trekker Road by the cemetery. If you're coming out of Goodwood through Jakes Covell, heading through to Kensington and Maitland, that section of Four Trekker Road under pressure. At a collision scene on Baden Powell Drive near Jafta K Masamola, holding traffic to and from the N2 highway, and very heavy right in Khayelitsha. Very busy roads, all jammed up this morning. Govan and Becky and Meway Junction. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 on this Thursday, the 31st of July, 2025. 31st of July, I've seen many people with the quip that it's been a long month, a month of revelation after revelation, shocking revelation after shocking revelation. Finally, we're at the end of the month of July, and what a dramatic and pivotal month it has been. Among some of the stories that we will cover for you in this hour, we will be talking to the Health Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, in the next few minutes, and we'll be discussing the deaths that occurred at the Northern Cape Mental Health Hospital, but also just the general low standard of care that has been found by the health ombud at that hospital, as well as the Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe Hospital, where mental health patients were being cared for. More importantly for me, I want to ask the health minister whether this incident occurring, the death of at least 2 mental health patients, what does it say about whether or not we learned any lessons from the Life Esidimeni tragedy? The Health Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, on standby to talk to me in the next few minutes. And then immediately after that, we will focus on the impact of the tariffs that are now more than likely to come in from tomorrow, unless by some miracle, which is highly unlikely, we conclude a trade agreement within the next 24 hours. A 30% base tariff on most South African exports to the United States will kick in from tomorrow, and there's great anxiety in parts of the country where the economy, the base of the economy is exports, particularly exports to the United States. So case in point, regions such as Kariega in the Eastern Cape, a great deal of concern there in Nelson Mandela Bay about what will happen with the automotive exports to the United States and, the value chain in the economy that all of those support. So that conversation coming up immediately after my conversation with Minister Aaron Motsoaledi. We'll be focusing on that with Denise van Heesten, who is CEO of the Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber. So that's how it's looking within this half hour. Do give me a call and reflect on these and other stories that we are covering this morning. The number to dial 086 000 2032 086 000 2032. 32. And also your WhatsApp voice notes, please send them to 061 410 4107. Let's get the second hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
You are the biggest saver we've ever had.
2,794 Rand a month. It was the easiest switch ever.
What was the real deal they could offer you?
870.
That's amazing. You're always getting something out.
Yeah.
I've been battling to get nice car insurance. Outsurance, I found them. I'm saving a cool $360.
Get the real deal with the real savings.
I made the right move.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands.
Just phone Outsurance, get a quote and see what they can offer you. If you don't save that 321 like I did, you might say get a 500 or $1,000 back. Service and savings, you'll always get something out. How is it that Outsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible. What brought you and Outsurance together?
718 Rand. I end up saving.
They gave you the real deal.
It literally is the real deal.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
13 minutes, in fact, make that 14 minutes after 7 on this Thursday. The Health Ombud, Professor Taule Mokoena, has released a damning report uncovering systemic failures at 2 Northern Cape hospitals that led to the preventable deaths of psychiatric patients. The report identifies severe infrastructure collapse, poor clinical care, and chronic mismanagement as key contributors, with patients literally freezing to death due to electricity failures. Health Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi has vowed accountability and immediate intervention. He joins us now to take that conversation forward. Minister, good morning and thank you for your time. The Health Ombud, Professor Taule Mokoena, and I quote here, he, in relation to the Northern Cape Mental Health Hospital, says, quote, "We found that during this time, when there was no electricity, patients were freezing to death, literally," end quote. It has eerie echoes of the tragedy of Life Esidimeni, where, you know, being exposed to the elements was a feature in many of those ill-equipped NGOs where patients had been transferred to. Did we learn nothing from Life Esidimeni and the tragedy? And did the vows of never again mean nothing?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good morning to the listeners. No, it doesn't. You know, Thulasizwe, in Life Esidimeni, people were taken to wrong places where nobody is trained in healthcare, where nobody is ready to accept patients. These patients were where they were supposed to be. Mm-hmm. In a hospital with doctors who went to medical schools, got trained, with nurses which got trained, with managers who were interviewed and given their job. So it is not really the same. It is, they were exactly where they were, but they were failed by people who were given those jobs of taking for them. Where else do you go than a hospital, you know? Unlike in Life Esidimeni where they went to, people who were definitely not trained. Even the issue of electricity, it's not that we did nothing about it. If you remember, when I was in my first stint in health, the issues of Eskom started. I mean, this load shedding, it's not new, it didn't start now. It started then. And we were told by Eskom that they are not going to spare hospitals. We tried very hard to negotiate. They said, no, we are not going to spare any hospital if there's load shedding. So it really scared us. I dispatched a team of highly competent engineers all over the country to all the hospitals to set standards. If there's any load shedding or any electricity problem, this is the size of generator they need. This is how many they must buy.
this is etc. And
Yeah.
then the gauge, and to do an audit of what is there and give a list of each and every hospital what it is short of. We did not end there. We even advised that in each hospital there must be a special person whose job is to maintain the generators. Not an engineer, but a person who will go and say, today I checked the diesel at this level.
Yeah.
This week I started it to make sure that if there's an emergency, it will kickstart. Because we found that some of the generators don't start if they lie idle for a long time because there's electricity. Now, in this case, it was not even load shedding. It was vandalism.
Yes.
Yes, somebody stole the cables, somebody vandalized the station. All that was supposed to kick in was the plan that we've given them, and they failed to do so.
Yeah.
So it is people who have been given responsibility, deliberately failing the patients, and that's why I'm vowing that we have to do something about them.
What is that something, Minister? You were the complainant, the original complainant that triggered this whole investigation. What now? You have the report and it's damning. It signifies a significant letdown for these patients.
Yeah, remember the health office of the health ombudsman did not just start on its own. Coincidentally, I happened to be the person who started it in my first stint in health because I was worried that when stories like this happen, they appear in the papers, in the media, and then disappear without nothing happening. That has happened many times. If you check, before the office of Umbas was established, there were such things that so-and-so did this, so-and-so that in such and such an area this happened. It becomes headlines. From there, it disappears. So we wanted an office which will make sure that it doesn't end there. And that's why we established the Office of Health Standard. I was asked questions. The Office of the Umbad. What is this Umbad? I simply said it's a public protector of health. We need an office that will protect the healthcare system. And it was because we envisaged that there will be individuals like this. And so we need somebody to protect that healthcare system. That's why it was established. So when I refer a case to the Umbad, it's not like referring it to a commission where they are going to find whether a wrong was done. When I refer a case to the Umbad, it's because something wrong has happened.
Yeah.
A wrong was done. All I want to know is who has done it, how did it happen, and who gets pointed, and what action did we take?
But the issue around the generator failure and electricity issues at the Northern Cape Mental Health Hospital are one thing, Minister, but there are also issues in terms of just the standard of care between those two hospitals where, according to the report, a patient would have been taken from the Northern Cape Mental Health Hospital to the Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe Hospital, but there's a failure to really treat them for the pneumonia that they have. Those have to do with the conduct of the professionals, as well as issues of poor quality linen and others. These are the issues that I'm asking you about to say, what happens now that they've been laid bare in this way in this report?
Indeed, Thulasizwe, the Umbad did his job. He laid them bare. And he even named the doctors. Yesterday, I even said, I never practiced medicine for more than 30 years now. But if I was to put in that hospital, I wouldn't have treated, clinically, I wouldn't have treated people this way. And I even said, if you look at the past reports of the Umbad, like starting with Professor Makhoba, Life is the Main, and then Helen Joseph, they were never complaining about the clinical acumen of doctors. It was always political interference, management failures, but not clinical. In this case, he clearly pointed to doctors who clinically failed. Now, that cannot be determined by the Umbad. It's a professional, issue by the Health Professions Council. The council that gave somebody a license to practice medicine. When that person failed dismally, what does the council do? Then the nursing council, because nurses were also involved. I heard from the report that they were not even taking vital signs. I don't know what that means. It's like saying the Thulasizwe was at work, and he did not even do basic things in the radio, like reading news at the time, reading weather and all that. When people go to hospital, nurses, their job is to take temperatures, to take BP, to check the blood sugar. In other words, that's what we call vital signs. If they could not do that, the question is, should they be practicing? That cannot be answered by the UMPAT person or me. It has to be referred to the Health Professions Council of South Africa and the Nursing Council, because it's professional misconduct, professional incompetence, and it's within their purview to decide what must happen with such individuals.
Minister, I'm out of time, but I do need to ask you, and I'd like you to just answer it as briefly as possible. Is this the two patients that died? Are these the only patients that died as a result of these situations at these hospitals, or should we prepare ourselves that in the coming weeks and months it is possible that more names will come forward whose deaths is linked to these conditions at these hospitals? Very briefly, please.
No. They are the only ones. Remember, this issue happened last year in winter after cables were stolen. It was a specific instance at a specific time.
Okay, let's leave it there. I had to ask, Minister, because even with life as Esidimeni, this is how it all started. 1 or 2 reports, and eventually we were dealing with a tragedy of great magnitude. That is the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi.
We spend a lot of time looking for deals, but we don't invest the same time in our health. Your health buys you more time with the people you love. So who are you staying healthy for, and how can you improve your health? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that rewards you for living healthier with lower premiums and more cover. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guard Risk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 2 litre Sunflower cooking oil for $64.99 plus 150 megs free data on Spar Mobile. 700ml all gold tomato sauce for $32.99 plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 400 gram baked beans and tomato sauce, 2 for 30 Rand plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 6 August while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
What is Overtrail? Is it off the beaten path, over the edge of comfort, or the thrill of the road less taken? It's over every bridge, every obstacle, every trail, and over to that view that takes your breath away. Overtrail means going further, exploring deeper, surrounded by the comfort and sophistication of a luxury SUV. It's this spirit that inspired the Overtrail project. Experience Overtrail in the LX and GX range. Lexus. Experience amazing.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
25 minutes after 7. With just 24 hours before the United States is set to impose a steep 30% base tariff on most South African exports to that country, anxiety is gripping parts of the Eastern Cape, the beating heart of the country's automotive industry. The potential fallout is enormous. Plant closures, tens of thousands of job losses, and a social crisis that could deepen crime and poverty in already fragile communities. Let's speak to Denise van Heesten, who is CEO of the Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Just outline for us the sense of dread that perhaps you are picking up that has to do with not just the automotive exports, but also the various value chains in and around the region.
Good morning, and thanks for inviting me today. Yes, we're very, very concerned about what is happening. We see this not just as an issue in terms of manufacturers and those organizations that do trade with the US, but it's a global issue. It's going to have a ripple impact across all manufacturing around the world. Manufacturers will locate their manufacturing where it's the most efficient to do so and where they can be the most competitive. So if there are other countries that have lower tariffs than us, they already will be on a stronger foothold than what we are. And the Eastern Cape is disproportionately affected by what's happening, especially here in Nelson Mandela Bay. We are anchored by the manufacturing sector, especially automotive. And approximately 100,000 people around the country are directly employed in the automotive industry. And when you start to extract information around that, you'll see that over 500,000 people are then linked to the industry from there. And then as you go into the ecosystem, the impact gets bigger and bigger, and especially for a metro like ours that is very reliant on manufacturing.
And are you already starting to see this? Because already there have been these tariffs that were announced that applied specifically to the automotive sector, and we've heard from organizations like NAMSA talking about the reduction in exports to the US, and then you had that Goodyear plant, the planned closure that will lead to job losses. Mercedes-Benz halting its production in June and set to resume today, actually.
Yeah, deindustrialization is a major concern for us. It's been happening already for a couple of years. One needs to understand that the automotive market, the domestic market hasn't really grown. At pre-COVID levels, it stood at around 615,000 vehicles. Last year, 515,000. So the market's not growing, and then you're also seeing cheap imports coming into the market. So, for example, on the tire side, and we've seen now where there's factories that have been closing down, it's cheaper to import tires than to manufacture them locally. The same is happening in terms of vehicles. And if you look at the top 10 selling vehicles, for example, in our market, 5 out of 10 of the top selling vehicles are from companies that don't manufacture in the country. So we are in a crisis situation, and it's a combination of factors. We've had enabling environment issues that affect manufacturing, because you need reliable power, water, infrastructure and services. Logistics, we need efficient logistics. And then when you start looking at the geopolitical environment and the shifts that are happening, we also need to have favorable trade deals with other countries, and we need an environment which incentivizes vehicle production in South Africa. If we had to lose vehicle production, it would be very difficult to reclaim that again.
Yeah.
And one needs to also recognize the technology, the skills, and the innovation that comes with having an automotive industry.
Lastly, Denise, what's your sense of the response plan? Are you any clearer as to what the response plan is? It's one thing for South Africa to be negotiating till the last second for a trade deal, but it doesn't look like it will come through in time to spare us from this 30% tariff. Do you have a sense that there's a response plan and it's clear and it's spelled out from national government, provincial government?
I think at this stage there's high uncertainty. We obviously very highly concerned about what's happening, and I think I would hope that there'll be a positive outcome, but it's hard to believe that there will be. So I think it's important that we focus on mitigation and action, and simply switching markets doesn't happen overnight. So we really need to look at how we can protect local manufacturing by some emergency measures, and then longer term, how we can make our industry more competitive.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Denise van Heijsten, who is CEO of the Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber. Brings us to 7:30. Zai, once again, my apologies. I will do better. I promise. I promise. This is the last time. I will do better. Let's go straight to N. Musa.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa has argued that he could not have exercised his constitutional power to dismiss Police Minister Senzo Mchunu without first investigating allegations against him. Ramaphosa was responding in the urgent application lodged by former President Jacob Zuma and the MK party in the Constitutional Court. The Health Ombudsman has recommended the National Department of Health establish a forensic investigation for the entire Northern Cape Provincial Health Supply Chain Management System. And 3 of the 5 suspects arrested in connection with the murder of the DA Chief Whip in the Mgeni municipality are expected to appear in the Howick Magistrates Court today. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning. So it's awards season, is it not?
Yeah.
And this time we're talking cricket, and Themba Bavuma is the name.
Oh, yeah. From Lords to Emperor's Palace.
Yes.
I mean, they should just give him the crown already, because you know what? He is the front runner. And that's for the African Cricketer of the Year at the Cricket South Africa Awards tonight at Emperor's Palace. Bavuma's stellar year included 609 test runs at an average of 60.9 and an unbeaten captaincy record. Kagiso Rabada, Keshav Maharaj, Ryan Rickleton and last year's winner Marco Jansen are also nominated, while Rabada's 300th test wicket and Maharaj's 40 wickets add some spice to a night set to celebrate a golden year for the Proteas. Let's go to soccer, where the Bafana attacker Keegan Dolly voicing his frustration over the ways South African footballers are treated once they reach the age of 30. He's 32 and is one of the most experienced players in Coach Molefe Nseki's Chan squad, having also captained the 2016 Olympic team in Brazil. And he hopes that this will be a way of showing that he is worth.
For now, still focused here with this team. With the players we have here. And after the tournament, I'll still have to see what comes my way. But for now, all my attention and focus is here at the tournament. Try to give it my all. And then after the tournament, I still want to play. I still feel like I can play a bit longer. But it's also just trying to find the right place to enjoy football.
Elsewhere, it's Manchester United defender Luke Shaw has suggested there are no longer any stragglers in the squad as a result of Ruben Amorim's tough approach. United are currently taking part in a tour of the USA, where they are competing in the Premier League series as Amorim's side prepares for the new campaign. United begin the new season with a clash against Arsenal at Old Trafford on Sunday, the 17th of August. And finally, cycling, the Mauritian Kim Lekor Pinar became the first African to win a stage at the Tour de France Femme with a late push, reclaiming the yellow jersey during a marathon 165.8 kilometer ride. Here's Lekor Pinar.
Yeah, amazing. We had the plan to try and take it back today. The team rode amazingly. The plan was to just take the bony sprints and then if it finishes in a small group, try and take the stage victory, and it worked out really well. I don't think it would have been possible without the teamwork, without Sarah at the end. It really was amazing. And now we have a second Simba, so super happy.
Cyclebacks, more sport, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Still very heavy backlogs coming out of Germiston and Alberton on the run through to Galulis this morning. A series of crash days has traffic on the N12 back to Reading Interchange, and on the N3 back to Grey Avenue, sending that stuff all the way through to a lost load at Van Buren. Crash on the M1 North after Bayers Nordia, causing delays from Gordon Road, and a crash on the N12 at Atlas, holding traffic out of Benoni on the way to Boksburg this morning, heading towards Joburg. Durban's N2 North, pretty heavy today between the M7 Bluff exit and Westwood Mall. In fact, just refreshing my system, that queue looks to be around about Cement Factory. N2 North onto the M4, an earlier crash there holding traffic up. And Cape Town today, 2 broken down vehicles between the M5 Highway and Hospital Bend on the N2 inbound. The M2 backs from the airport. Behind that, the M5 is heavy all the way back to Southfield and Parkwood. Cape Town generally slow because of rain. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndauling Lechela. News out of the tech sector. And Ndauling, tell me about Microsoft and Meta and the strong earnings that they've posted.
Now, both companies' shares surged after the tech giants reported stronger than expected quarterly results. Meta's shares jumped over 10% due to its upbeat ad sales and ambitious AI projects. The company's revenue jumped 22% to $47.5 billion, driven by growth in ad sales, while net income climbed 36%. Company CEO Mark Zuckerberg attributed the ad system gains to AI improvements. The group recently invested $14.3 billion in Scale AI and partnered with CEO Alexandra Wang to lead its super intelligence labs, which it sees to double, or which it looks to double growth on that front. Microsoft, in the meantime, also reported strong results, with its shares rising 8% in after-hours trading and pushing its market cap past $4.1 trillion, joining NVIDIA in the $4 trillion club. Now, the company's revenue grew 18%, driven by its cloud sales, which surpassed $75 billion for the year, up 34%. Now, both companies are positioning themselves at the forefront of the AI revolution, with Meta focusing on personal superintelligence and Microsoft leveraging its cloud platform to meet growing AI demands.
Let me throw you a curveball, Ndauling. Why not? At 7:30. If Nike is just do it, what is Adidas?
What is Adidas? What is Adidas catchphrase? Oh my word! Oh, this is such a hectic catchphrase.
I got you.
Do you know it? Though?
Well, let me be honest. Mpo in studio here, our technical producer, had to Google it for me. Impossible is nothing. But all we know is that it's the brand with the 3 stripes. So tell us about them and the price hikes they're considering in the US.
So Americans could be paying a little extra for their favorite Adidas items. That's as the firm warned of price hikes in the US, and this, of course, due to the impact of tariffs imposed by the Trump administration, which could add about 200 million euros to its costs in the second half of the year. The group CEO, Bjorn Gulden, stated that the company is uncertain about the final tariffs and their potential impact on consumer demand, which is why it hasn't decided on price increases as yet. Now, despite the challenges posed by tariffs, Adidas reported a 2.2% sales growth in euro terms to close to 6 billion euros in the quarter, but this fell short of analyst expectations of 6.2 billion euros. The company's quarterly operating profit reached 546 million euros, and that was ahead of expectations. Adidas has been front-loading product shipments into the US ahead of the tariffs, resulting in a 16% increase in inventories. The US is a key market for the group, accounting for about a fifth of its sales, and Golden emphasized the company's commitment to growing its business there, stating it is willing to over-invest to double on that unit there.
All right, lastly, Ndauling, how are the markets looking at this hour?
So starting in Asia, markets mostly in the red, with the exception of the Japanese Nikkei. That up over 1%, this after the Bank of Japan kept rates unchanged, a move that was expected. Traders on that front also digesting the latest trade developments, with the US sealing a deal with South Korea just in time as the deadline looms. Over in Wall Street, futures are in positive territory. Investors cheering earnings from Microsoft and Meta, both firms reaffirming their focus on AI and increasing capital expenditure. Then coming back home, the JSE All-Share managing to eke out gains in a day of mixed trading. And the Rand, however, is on the back foot this morning ahead of the SOBS rates move. It's currently sitting at 17.97 to the dollar. Lost in the commodities scene, oil holding on to gains, trading at about $70 per barrel.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. We'll hear from you one more time in the third hour of the show.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take one or two of your calls. In fact, let me start with Bushielo in Mamelodi. Good morning to you, Bushielo. You want to talk to me about DJT, Donald John Trump?
Yeah, and they're all related to you. How are you?
Very well, how are you? Please go ahead.
Yes. Thank you so much for taking my call. I'm concerned here that Trump is bullying us, and Trump is it doesn't take us as Africans, especially South Africa, as we are sovereignty, because now you want to choose what we must do. Because remember, if an African does not have a land in Africa, in which place must he or she have the land? He's imposing tariffs on us because we are BRICS, and realize that they see what CIC was saying, because CIC is not even a member of parliament. And then it's not a crime for an African to have a land in Africa. And then we must also remember that the United States, the very same United States, is the very same country that labeled Nelson Mandela as a terrorist. And it's also the country that takes Africans from Africa and enslave them and build America. And they never ever pay repercussions. So our problem is here in South Africa, we don't have leaders. We have few leaders, but we have politicians. Remember, there's a difference between a politician and a leader. Because a politician will create problem, and then he thrives on creating problem, and then he can take 10 years acting as if he's solving the problem. That's my part.
I've heard you. Thank you for that. That's Bushielo out in Mamelodi. If it's any comfort, when Bushielo, we are not... The focus is not just on Africa. Even countries that are allies and friends of the United States are facing these tariffs. And I was saying a few days ago that I'm starting to see that there's a method to the madness. It's always been said, but you're starting to see it, that, he pegged it really high, and he was talking in some instances upwards of 80% in tariffs. Then you negotiate. Then there's a give and take. Then there's the offer here and offer there, and then it comes down. But ultimately, all of these countries that had been flagged for tariffs will have a tariff that's higher than when we started. And they're not just on the African continent. But the points you're making about his policies, not being happy with policies in South Africa, that's a point well made. And there's nothing really to say about that. Even recently, he was reiterating that he's unhappy with South Africa and its policies. Mbuyisa in Pietermaritzburg, good morning. Ngiyaphila kunjani ba?
I want to comment on this thing of Northern Cape, the death of in the psychiatric hospital. The problem I'm having here is that you go to that province. My understanding with that province, it seems as if there's no political leadership in that province. People are sleeping on you today. And I wonder if the way Gauteng was dealt with, like the people of Patani Matang, will the MEC there or the Premier be forced actually to take an accountability on that? Because one death is one too many. What I'm saying is that you go to that province, you still find the sewer in the city, running in the middle of the city. That province is one of those provinces that there's definitely no political leadership in that province. And as a party shot, I'm very disappointed that even when they failed politically, nothing is done to the leadership of that province. If you remember very well, ANC did not do very well in that province, but nothing was done to the leadership of that province. But when Gauteng and KZN did not do well, action was taken. I want to see what the president or the minister will do with the political heads of that province, because actually they are the ones actually who are elected by the, because that Northern Cape, there's no leadership. Potholes everywhere in the CBD. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mbuyisa. Thank you for that. And also, while you were talking about the Northern Cape, Mbuyisa, I actually remembered that there was another crisis in a mental health hospital. So not only did you have the life as a Dimeni situation, which the minister was rightly pointing out that it's different in terms of the factors that were at play, in that it was at NGOs and the political decision and administrative decision making that put those patients there. But you've had a few instances that are starting to suggest that perhaps we need to be paying more attention to mental health care as a category of work that needs to be done by public authorities. Remember the situation at Tower Hospital that's in Fort Beaufort in the Eastern Cape. That was another issue that we were dealing with not so long ago. It brings back that question: when do we say we've learned the lessons about the vulnerabilities, particularly of mental health patients, and the systems do not fail the people in the manner that is being described in the latest report of the Health Ombud? Hassan in Joburg, good morning.
Morning. I just wanted to follow up on the Health Ombuds report and the way the minister responded. I really think it's commendable that he initiated an ombuds office. We just finished now a 3-day workshop around mine waste and tailings and how it impacts on mining communities. And this issue of when the lights go off, a number of communities who are affected by respiratory illnesses and on life-supporting oxygen actually suffer the same fate, and they're living in communities. This is not addressed. We don't have redress mechanisms in terms of the mining law, which is currently being discussed. So this is one of the things, and we like the idea of an ombud to deal with the complaints of communities, because it seems like it's rudderless in the mining sector. And
so you reckon this idea could work in the mining sector as well?
You need the political will, because as you heard from the Minister of Health, he initiated it, and I love that level of accountability. Why is it that our leadership seek to diminish the rights of workers and the poor rather than affirming them? He actually needs praise, not only criticism. He needs praise amongst the sadness that we are talking about now.
All right. Gotcha. Hassan, thank you for that call. In fact, let me take one or two voice notes that have to do with responding to the conversation we had with the Health Minister, Aaron Motsoaledi, before I go to Bongani's call out in Mpumalanga as well as Vusi in Joburg.
Morning, my brother Thulasizwe. Yeah, it's Papi from Cape Town. I wish if all ministers could lead like our minister, Tata, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. Since he was in Home Affairs, always honest with the system. Always. God bless him. Our leader. A hero. A hero. You see, just put
Thulasizwe yalezo here in Mthatha. Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, I think for me, the guy is the most accountable minister that we have had in many years. I like his style. He doesn't shy away coming to platforms like the radio to come and give his side of the issues. Big ups to him, Dr. Motsoaledi. I respect the man.
All right, thank you for that. Lots of praise for Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi in the manner in which he's the one who brought the complaint that ended up being investigated by the Health Ombud. But let's see what then happens by way of consequence management. He was, of course, saying that in terms of the failures, the clinical failures by the health professionals, it's up to the professional bodies that, you know, to whom they account to hold these professionals accountable. The authorities that license them to practice medicine should look into this report and see what steps can be taken next. Bongani in Mpumalanga, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Thulas.
Yes, you want to talk about something completely different.
Yes, I just want to talk about the private security regulator, PCRA.
Yes.
Yes, I don't know if you can maybe zoom in on that, Thulas. I think 3 or 4 years ago, they implemented a system there where the security officers and the guys that are under this private security regulator, they can renew their certificate after 2 years via online. So now you can renew it via online. And that was a good system that they did introduce, because they only have two main officers in Pitori and in Centurion, if I quite remember. Yes, I'm quite right. So now what happened now is that after you renew your certificate via online, you can print it out. Then you have that certificate. That was good system that they introduced, because they have this backlog of people driving from Mpumalanga to go to Pitori to do that.
Yes.
So now what they did, they block that. You can renew now online, but you can't access it or print it, that certificate. So
that
now
doesn't make sense?
It doesn't make sense, because now after you renew it, you have to go back to go to your head office.
That's ridiculous, Bongani. That defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
Exactly. That's my take. I don't know if you can get maybe one of the spokesperson and come and explain these things.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely pursue that. The team is noting that it doesn't make sense from what you've described. Why go online in terms of renewal and then for it to be printed have to go physically, unless there are some security features that have been introduced, perhaps in response to objective conditions on the ground. I don't know, but we certainly will pick it up with them. Lastly, Vusi, good morning. You want to talk to me about Advocate Dalimpofu. What about him?
Yeah, morning to you, Thulas. The return of Advocate Dalimpofu.
Yes.
In the manner in which I want to commend him with his team, the manner in which they challenge this Matlanga Commission yesterday. But to me, I was worried, because you see, there are still judges. The manner in which the outcry we are saying judges has been captured. You can see the reaction of your Justice Rod and others there. I think they need to be careful, because now the country took another posture whereby every little move, because you can see the question in which you were so asking Talimpofu. Some of them, they were not very necessary, but I'm very, 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 very much.
Can I say something, Vus? Can I say something? So when you see those judges interacting with senior counsel, all of those people are really senior in their profession. It's an intellectual debate. It's playing devil's advocate. It's teasing out your thinking. It's getting you to justify your thinking more and more. And if you know Justice Teron, she's one of those that really do engage all senior counsel, not just Advocate Mpofu. Anyone who appears before that bench will know that some of the sharpest questions will come from Justice Teron. So I don't know about, I understand the concerns about, the judiciary accountability and allegations that have been made. But I'm saying to you, I don't think that was displayed by the rigorous intellectual engagement that actually, by the way, these advocates such as Dalimpofu and others actually enjoy and appreciate, because it gets them to really state their case and cover all bases. I don't know. What do you think? What do you make of what I've just said?
Look, he was not sober. He was not sober like your Justice Motopo or Justice Kolape. Those, if you can differentiate those three, you can see who was more sober and who was able to approach the case the way in which it was coming. And my other concern was that who's this judge, the presiding judge? He didn't say we are going to give you a feedback, the judgment. They said we are going to give you a response.
Yeah.
To me, I was also worried on that. Instead of giving us a judgment, you give us a response.
All right,
on
Vusi.
this crucial matter.
Got you, Vusi. Thank you for that. That's Vusi out in Joburg, reflecting on the hearing of the MK Party versus President Cyril Ramaphosa yesterday.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Quick traffic update just to keep you moving around the worst of it around South Africa this morning. Crash on Joburg's N1 North after Beyers Nordia. Traffic coming out of Soweto backs to Albertina, Sicily. Still with a crash on the N3 North at Cement Factory. That's causing chaos on the N3 from Spruitview, as well as the N12 coming around from Oakdean. Those highways into Elands and up to that Cement Factory crash are really very heavily backed up. Durban today, the N2 running north up to Westwood Mall, the back of the queue at the M7. There's some heavy pressure coming in from Pavilion Mall on the N3 through Spaghetti Junction down to Sherwood. If you're on your way into Durban, that is going to add some significant travel time. And Cape Town, the rain this morning, everything on a bit of a slow go, but a particular concern is around the Khayelitsha area. There's a crash on the N2 outbound at Spine Road, so that's causing a big delay. An earlier crash on Baden-Powell at Jeff K. Masemola is being cleared, but Baden-Powell around the N2 highway is very heavy. And then local routes inside Khayelitsha, like Spine Road to Jeff K. Masemola, Govan and Becky and Muway Junction, and particularly Swartklip and Govan and Becky. There's some really heavy backlogging going around Khayelitsha this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
5 minutes to 8. Gauteng's public healthcare system is under scrutiny after newly released data revealed a nearly fourfold spike in hospital-acquired infections, HAIs. And that fourfold spike came in last year. According to the Gauteng Health MSc, Nomantu Nkomo Ralehoko, 7,743 patients contracted infections while in hospital in 2023, up dramatically from 2,034 the year before. Medical experts and health associations blame the surge on a combination of overcrowding, staff shortages, poor hygiene, lack of essential supplies and inconsistent infection control measures. Let's speak to Dr. Angelique Coetzee, who is Vice Chair of the Unity Forum of Family Practitioners. Good morning to you, Doc, and thank you for your time. So this spike, fourfold, even if we say there are these factors in hospitals, it would seem it suggests that these factors you and I will discuss exacerbated significantly in that year.
Yes, good morning. So, it's just a number.
the problem is we can't fully assess the significance without knowing how many total patients were admitted to the Gauteng hospitals or spent time in the ICU. So this context is essential for understanding the infection rate. What we do know, however, is that these HAIs are a serious quality of care indicator and often reflect the challenges in infection control, staffing levels, overcrowding, and infrastructure. And we have mentioned this how many times that this is one of the core problems in the public sector hospitals. And it seems that we are going to talk about the common reasons for the next 10 years. Nothing changed there.
Where is the inertia? Where is the failure to respond to what is already now a well-understood, well-defined, thoroughly analyzed crisis?
So the problem is lying, I think, because it is Gauteng, so it lies with the Premier in Gauteng. He's responsible for the MEC of Gauteng. So that's one of the biggest problems is, they need to be taken to task and ask how are they going to fix this problem. We know, actually I've said we know the problems, but there's actually a much bigger problem, and that is the lack of your granular, transparent, and competitive data that we don't have in South Africa, but particularly in the public versus private sectors. So it's a major problem. So if we don't have consistent public available stats for your HIA rates by province, by hospital, or by hospital level, then we're never going to move forward. We also need to break it down by ward and disciplines.
Yeah.
There's no published stats. So there's a data collection problem. My gut feeling, 7,743 might be the bottom line, but it might be much higher than that. We don't have proper data.
And by the way, that is a figure that is extracted from data that includes 217,490 admissions at public hospitals in Gauteng in 2023. Doc, lastly, when we say hospital-acquired infections, what are we talking about? Just give examples. Immediately I thought about Klebsiella, but is that one of them?
Yes, that's one of them. But you get resistance, Klebsiella resistance. So the problem is we don't have antibiotics for these hospital bugs. So it's mostly bacteria that changes their structure. And then when you are in hospital for, let's say, an operation or something else, and you then get this infection, because of all these various reasons we have already mentioned, your chances of survival are very slim, because the antibiotics is not there, and it's dangerous bacterial infections that you do get. No one wants to get a hospital bug. It's not like flu. It's not like normal pneumonia. This is serious stuff we're talking about, and we do not have treatment for that. And there's not a lot of treatment in the pipeline for hospital-acquired infections.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Dr. Angelique Coetzee, who is Vice Chairperson of the Unity Forum of Family Practitioners. Brings us to 8 a.m. Straight to Ann Musa, who is on standby with your latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, Ramaphosa argues he couldn't dismiss Mchunu without probing allegations, and 2 more arrested in murder of a DA councillor. Good morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa has argued he could not have exercised his constitutional power to dismiss Police Minister Senzo Mchunu without first investigating allegations against him. Ramaphosa was responding in the urgent application lodged by the former President Jacob Zuma and the MK party in the Constitutional Court. The application claims 3 interrelated decisions taken in response to corruption allegations made by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, were unlawful and unconstitutional. Ramaphosa placed Mchunu on special leave, appointed Professor Feroz Kachalia to act in his position, and established a judicial commission of inquiry. Counsel for President Ramaphosa, Advocate Nwako Maneje.
Because the principle of rationality requires that the process leading to the taking of the decision, in this case the dismissal of the minister, the process must itself be rational, because it must inform the president properly on whether there is a basis to dismiss. And the president says, I can't reach that decision lawfully, consistently with the Constitution, without giving the opportunity for those allegations, broad allegations, being investigated.
Meanwhile, Advocate Dalim Mpofu argued it was unlawful for the president to have placed Mchunu on special leave and appoint Professor Kachalia to act in his position.
This whole maneuver is about that. How do I save my friend and close political ally, give him a salary for the next 3 years, 5 years, God knows for how long, while he's doing nothing but keeps the bodyguards, the drivers, and all those things, and the title. But at the same time, I have someone who must look after the police. So then you think of this long, elaborate contrivance. But the law is very clear. You must do one or the other. You want Professor Kachalia, then you must dismiss Minister Mchunu.
The Health Ombudsman has recommended the National Department of Health establish a forensic investigation for the entire Northern Cape Provincial Health Supply Chain Management System. Professor Taule Mokoena released the findings of a probe into the treatment, complications and deaths of psychiatric patients at the Northern Cape Mental Health Hospital and the Robert Sobukwe Hospital. It was initiated at the request of the Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi. Professor Mokoena says the absence of electricity after cable theft and vandalism of an Eskom substation exposed patients to severe cold. He says junior health workers were left in charge of important units.
We've made some recommendations for remedial action. First of all, the electricity has been restored, but what is needed is that the security must be beefed up so that the vandalism and the theft should not recur. Number two is that the resuscitation equipment at the mental hospital is either non-functional or absent, but we've recommended that these be purchased, that people must be trained in using this equipment to resuscitate patients.
3 of the 5 suspects arrested in connection with the murder of the DA chief whip in the Umgeni municipality are expected to appear in the Howick Magistrates Court today. Nhlalayenza Ndlovu was gunned down at his home in December 2023. 2 suspects were arrested yesterday, bringing the total number of arrests to 5. National Police spokesperson Ethlenda Martis says the suspects arrested yesterday will appear in court with suspects previously arrested.
2 additional suspects have been arrested, which include a 56-year-old Nkosi and a 26-year-old suspect who coordinated the murder of the councillor whilst in Pietermaritzburg prison. The pair will appear before the Howick Magistrate Court on Thursday, the 31st of July. They will join suspects who were previously arrested and charged for the murder. They will face charges of conspiracy to commit murder and possession of unlicensed firearms and ammunition.
A woman and 2 others arrested after a video went viral showing a mother allegedly encouraging a 4-year-old child to smoke drugs are expected to appear in the Johannesburg Regional Court this morning. The footage shows the mother placing a bottleneck with a lit Mandrake's drug on her son's mouth and him subsequently inhaling it. The 3 suspects were arrested in New Glen, Johannesburg on Tuesday. The child has since been taken to a place of safety. Gauteng Social Development spokesperson Mutsamai Mutlalwa says the department is outraged.
We are gravely outraged by the irresponsible behavior of the toddler's parents, and we further commit to investigating the incident in order to provide necessary intervention that will help the child. As a department, we appeal to the citizens to forward such videos to the police or to the department so that action can be taken against perpetrators, and we can be able to ensure that the children's rights are protected.
Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa has argued he could not have exercised his constitutional power to dismiss Police Minister Senzo Mchunu without first investigating allegations against him. Ramaphosa was responding in the urgent application lodged by the former President Jacob Zuma and the MK party in the Constitutional Court. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Outsurance made it possible for us to travel more with the money that we save. 725. This is really real.
You are the biggest saver we've ever had.
2,794 Rand a month. It was the easiest switch ever. Get real.
How is it that Outsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby with the 2027 Rugby World Cup on the horizon. Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus faces critical decisions. And we also bring you cricket, where it could be Themba Bavuma having a clean sweep at the Cricket South Africa Awards tonight. Details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Updates on some of the big delays around the country. Joburg's N1 North is under pressure coming from Soweto through Randburg. A crash just after Beyers Nordia, back of the queue around Mareesburg side. Crash on Joburg's N3 at Cement Factory in the Germiston area, so the N3 backs heavily from Grey Avenue, coming up from Sprayview. The N12 is back beyond the Reading interchange, out of Alberton onto the N3 via Elands, all heavy. And a breakdown at Galooly, so the N12 and R24 routes in from Ekurhuleni quite slow. Midrand sitting between Old Joburg Road and New Road, and the N14 you're going to be asked to queue again today on your way to Pretoria between the R55 exit and the N1 Brakfontein interchange. Durban N3 inbound fairly heavy from Pavilion Mall through towards Sherwood. If you're on your way into Durban, that'll add some travel time. And Cape Town, heavy pressure around Khayelitsha. There's a crash on the N2 outbound at Spine Road. That is heavy. And then routes inside Khayelitsha, Spine Road down to Jafta K Masemola, Miwe to Govan and Becky, Swadclip at Govan and Becky, and even the old Fora Road through Mfuleni very heavy. And just a little bit further east of that, Baden Powell is heavy between the N2 highway and Jafta K Masemola after an earlier crash. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It is 9 minutes after 8 on this Thursday. It's great to be in your company. We are into the third hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107. One of the things that I really enjoy is when an issue is raised, be it by ourselves in some of the stories we cover, or a listener calls in, sends a voice note that raises an issue, and then we get the people at the coalface of that issue responding to that particular issue. What am I talking about? Yesterday, Dichani, one of our listeners, was raising the issue and allegations about what he said was collusion in the pricing of tomatoes at the Johannesburg Fresh Produce Market. In the next few minutes, I'll have Silo Makubela from the Johannesburg Fresh Produce Market who is going to come through and respond and clarify how that market works and some of what Dichani was saying. That's the Chief Executive Officer of the, acting Chief Executive Officer who will talk to us. But before I get there, I do want to reflect one or two of your messages that have come through on the WhatsApp line. Mzi in Gqeberha says, health professionals are crying in the Eastern Cape. They whisper to me that positions have not been filled for 3 years. One of them was saying her hospital nurse-patient ratio is dangerously high. The same whisper came last weekend. Another small hospital in the Karoo region. Please interview the health MEC, HOD, and the CEOs of hospitals. Said, says Mzi in Gqeberha. It is that cry, Mzi, isn't it? That there's been a freeze on recruitment in many instances, and we're playing catch up. And not only the nurse patient ratio, but also even the doctor to patient ratio in our country is really not what it should be. So that is a crisis that's already been flagged, and you are absolutely right that we should continue to have conversations with the powers that be as to how do we come out of that situation. Then Lindiwe says, and I'm going to read Lindiwe's message verbatim here. Israel is no more a chosen nation. When the Second Testament was introduced, all nations are invited to form one chosen nation. And the citation is Mark 16, verse 15. And Lindiwe then goes on to quote, "Go preach the word in all corners of the world, so all will be saved." Gaza looks like a concentration camp with emaciated, malnourished people begging, running for food, while guns, bombs are exploding around, killing others. That message coming through from Lindiwe. Let me read one more. I wanted to read one or two messages that have to do with the caller who was talking about the situation around the private security industry regulatory authority and the ability or otherwise to print a certificate once you've gotten it approved online. This person says, I just wanted to respond to one of that one person who spoke about SIRA certification renewal. The online system is working perfectly. You can renew, make payment, and you will receive your new certification immediately via email or on your profile. And then someone else responded quite sharply. If I can get that message, no, I don't have it. But basically, it would appear from people who are in the industry that the system is working. And I suppose that caller was talking about being able to print it out as opposed to having it on your phone, on your email, and they would want to get it printed out. And I think I'm getting the sense that's where the difference is. All right, let's get the third hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief started.
Are you looking for deals you can't ignore? Get to Discount for great deals this winter for the whole family. Save a massive R400 on the Gillette Fusion 5 Pro Cartridges 12-pack, now only R999.99. Get 20% off all Nutri-Men face care products and save R79.98 when you buy any two Sanex 500ml shower gels for just R100. Hurry, winter price cuts end 17 August. Only at Discount. Better health starts here.
When your internet connection fails, does it really matter how fast it is? Business class internet is built for businesses. With remote monitoring, that means faster problem resolution and a backup LTE connection that keeps you online. Your company deserves business class internet because just reboot the router isn't a business strategy. Find reliability at vodacombusiness.co.za. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Further together. Vodacom Business.
The Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, DWYPD, in collaboration with the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, the Gauteng Provincial Government, Standard Bank South Africa and Absa Bank invite you to the Empower Her market, celebrating women's economic power on the 1st of August 2025 at the Sandton Convention Centre. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, Women Leading the Future of Trade. Tune in to The Talking Point as we shine the spotlight on women entrepreneurs as powerful drivers of the South African economy. Hashtag Rekaufela Basadi.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
All right, let's get to that right of reply and, just an explanation of some of the issues at play. Before we get to the acting chief executive officer of the Joburg Fresh Produce Market, let me play you some of what Richani had to say yesterday about the tomato market as it plays itself out at the Joburg Fresh Produce Market.
I want to talk about the collusion that is happening at the Joburg market.
Yes.
What we have noticed as black farmers who supplies tomato and other products, but we speak specifically on with regard to tomato, because we have noticed that once ZZ discovered there are a lot of black farmers who have supplied tomatoes at the Joburg market, because Siena is a big contributor. He then dropped price, and all the prices, the market will then follow that prices for ZZ.
Yes.
And what is the impact that the black farmers, we are losing income because of this collusion. So he's controlling how the market price for tomatoes are going. So this is a very, very, very
So a dominant player in the market that's able to influence price movement.
Correct.
To the detriment of the smaller players. Is this something you've raised with the Competition Commission, for example?
Yes, I'm going to raise that as well, because I tried to raise with Joburg Market Board, but they are not listening to us. That's why we're coming to the media to raise this concern.
All right, so that was yesterday. Let's hear now from Sello Makubela, the Joburg Market Acting Chief Executive Officer. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. You heard what the caller was saying. What's your response?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I think we have noted with serious concerns the issues raised by Ndicheni, and these are serious allegations. But I think, Thulasizwe, it's important that we maybe perhaps briefly explain how the market operates. You know, we are a trading platform. So basically, in terms of how we operate, we are a trading platform and we're a municipal entity of the city of Johannesburg.
Yeah.
We operate under 5% commission based on, open free market, which sort of supports transparent price discovery through trading or daily trading activities. And the model that we use, and I think it's fair that it's a willing buyer, willing seller type of a model, where we ensure that fresh produce prices are set fairly, through market demand and supply, rather than predetermined or fixed rate. And we believe that we are promoting equity, competitiveness, and trust in the system.
Yeah.
But I need to say that there has been this kind of allegations previously. They were investigated by the Competition Commission, and there was a report issued by the Competition Commission. And I think Ndichani has, the right to also, approach the Competition Commission and obviously allude to the Competition Commission in terms of these allegations. But over and above that, we've got a regulatory oversight body which is called APEC, the Agricultural Produce Agent Council, which is a body formed for fresh produce agents, and is involved in monitoring the market so that it mitigate potential anti-competitive practices. So we as the market, we need to put it on record that we remain committed to serving the interests of both the commercial and small scale farmers. And we are then providing that viable platform for them to bring produce.
But given what you've just said about the investigation that was done by the Competition Commission and what you've just described as a free market that determines the prices on a daily basis, is it plausible what Ndicheni is saying? The ability of a bigger player that has the economies of scale to be able to drive down prices by offering lower prices, which the smaller scale producers, black farmers and the likes, will simply not be able to match?
Look, we have sort of, immediately after that interview yesterday, we obviously had to do our own investigation, and this investigation obviously surrounded around the market agents, and they have denied these allegations, and they are arguing that market prices are determined by factors like quality, like I indicated, supply and demand and trend. And they are saying, no, it's not collusion. But I need to indicate that it's not the responsibility of the Joburg market to investigate such. We have also obviously contacted APEC and the Competition Commission to allow them of this kind of allegation.
All right.
So from where we are seated as the market, we have sort of had one or two interviews with our market agents, and they are denying the allegations. And like I indicated, market prices are determined by quality, supply, and demand and trends.
Lastly, is there work that you are doing as a platform for trading in agricultural goods to advance and sort of get the smaller scale farmers to understand how the market works and how they can be even more competitive, to empower them in a way and sort of to give them a step up, a leg up in terms of getting them to be competitive?
Like I indicated, we acknowledge that these are genuine concerns from the small-scale farmers, and this happens across the entire value chain. But as Joburg Market, we have created, platforms for engagement and support.
Sure.
One of the things that we do on an annual basis, we hold what we call Farmers Day, usually around October, where farmers and emerging producers are invited to participate, in workshops, in exhibitions, and in one-on-one sessions with market management and relevant partners. We then, through these engagements, we are aimed at addressing, challenges that sort of the chain are indicated, where we sort of unlock opportunities, and we promote, sustainability in the sector. And we believe that in continued dialogue and transparency, we are therefore extending an open invitation to all farmers, whether commercial or emerging, to engage directly with Joburg Market Management. And we also welcome producers to tour our market facilities, to gain deeper insight into how the market operates and how we can collaborate.
So can the Cheney reach out to you directly then, in case he believes he's got something that he wants to present that will prove some of the allegations he was making?
Definitely, he can reach out to Joburg Market. We can obviously liaise with the regulatory body. But as Joburg Market, we remain a partner to farmers and a key driver to food accessibility.
Thank you so much for coming through. We'll put the two of you in touch. That's Silo Makubela, who is the Joburg Market Acting Chief Executive Officer.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Tani Esther, or should I say the Tupperware Tani? How's business going?
Business is booming. I've been operating out of the boot of my car for 10 years, but shame, it couldn't keep up with my growing empire.
Okay, so you sold it to We Buy Cars?
Yes, quick. Sold my old one, bought a bigger one. I even sold some of my Tupperware to the friendly guy who picked up my car.
Stick to what you know best, eh, Tani?
Excuse me?
Never mind. We Buy Cars. Geared for your business, geared for you.
Taifa Stars have a big task to open the curtain with victory for East Africans. But the Stallions want the final whistle to elevate them to the summit in Group B. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Tanzania versus Burkina Faso this Saturday, 2 August at 7 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2, tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus. Anytime, anywhere, no subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me wade through the WhatsApp voice notes that have come through, a lot of them. So let me wade through as many as possible.
Good morning, Tulas. 2Gs, Pretoria. Tulas, tell me something. Why is the government not arresting members of the Dudula movement? Why are they not arresting them? Because what they are doing is illegal, complete human rights violations in broad daylight, and the government is doing nothing about it. Why? Why, Tulas?
Good morning, Tulas. It's Tuelo here in Kimberley, in Khalishewe. Tulas. You know, when I watched that video, when I watched the news yesterday, I was so devastated and distraught. What kind of parents does something like this? That woman and those people must be locked up and the keys be thrown away. If it's Mandrax, it means it's Mandrax and something. Mandrax and marijuana, or Mandrax and cannabis. you can see that the child is being taught to do those things. Yarr.
Tulas, good morning to you and the listeners. I just cannot believe Aaron is still the Minister of Health. I mean, the guy brought us life estimony and we rewarded him with Home Affairs portfolio. And now he's back to Department of Health and more patients are dying. I don't know what's wrong with this country. Thank you so much, Ulegazi in Durban.
Yeah, thank you for that. The other detail, though, that you have to consider, I suppose, is that health is one of those areas that are described as being areas of concurrent responsibility. So part of it is national responsibility and the other parts become provincial responsibility. I'm not defending him. Far be it from me to defend him. If you want to come for him, come for him. He's a politician and a wielder of significant power in the public sector. I'm just adding to that detail that some of these responsibilities are at a provincial level, and in fact even at a local level you get some responsibilities assigned. So we've got to go through the level of detail, the necessary level of detail, to be able to hold the right authority accountable for the actions and decisions that they take at their level of responsibility.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. So the Springbok coach, tell me about Rassie Erasmus. Why is he cutting down the number of players in the squad from 50 to 37?
I think he's playing a little bit of musical chairs. So we'll see how this is going to be when the music stops, who's in and who's out. There could be some big names that are going to be left standing to us, and not looking forward to that announcement. But yeah, he's trimmed the squad 50 to 37 ahead of the Rugby Championship opener against Australia. He stressed the cuts were not based on poor performance, but rather on the need for more effective one-on-one coaching and detailed preparation. The squad had initially been expanded for the 2-test series against Italy and a warm-up match against Georgia, giving the coach a broader view of available talent.
It was actually just to make sure that some of those guys, which we don't think the squad is only for the 2 Australian test matches. So, we have got a lot more one-on-one time, and, when Don does the scrums, it's not like 8 props that have to swap in. It's 3 hookers and 3 loose hits and 3 tight heads. The locks, it's not 7 locks that's here, but at least now we know after the incoming series, after the previous matches that we played, that everybody's comfortable in the setup, everybody understands our systems and how we do things.
On to cricket, and the Proteas Test captain Themba Bavuma, front runner to be crowned South Africa's Cricketer of the Year at the Cricket South Africa Awards tonight at Empress Palace. Bavuma's stellar year included 609 test runs at an average of 60.9, and he has an unbeaten captaincy record as well. Kagiso Rabada, Keshav Maharaj and Ryan Rickleton, as well as last year's winner Marco Jansen, are also nominated. Let's go to England captain. Now, Ben Stokes ruled out of the 5th and final test against India in a serious shoulder injury and now faces 6 to 10 weeks on the sidelines.
Yeah, I've got a decent tear of one of the muscles that I can't pronounce because I don't know how to say it. But yeah, it was obviously took as long as we could to make that decision around that. Obviously a bit of emotion going into this kind of stuff when you find out what you've done. Weighing up the risk reward, and the risk was way too high for damaging this any further than it currently is. Didn't want to put myself, and I wouldn't expect to put anyone else, any other of my players at risk with an injury like this.
On to athletics, and SA sprinter Kyle Zinn says cutting weight could be the difference in improving his times following the FISU World University Games in Germany. The UWC student clocked 10.42, and that's finishing 5th in the men's 100-meter finals, which was won by compatriot Bayanda Walaza.
I know I need to lose weight. My coach can attest to that. I'm not a rugby player anymore. So yeah, just know I need to lose weight and keep working. It's my first proper season, let's say. So next season will be a lot better.
We'll weigh in with more sport around 12:30 with John Gericke. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the Constitutional Court will today hand down its judgment in the long-drawn legal battle between Nkosana Makate's Please Call Me versus Vodacom case. The Apex Court will rule on whether the Supreme Court of Appeal acted beyond its jurisdiction in setting aside the 47 million rand compensation made by Vodacom. President Cyril Ramaphosa has argued he could not have exercised his constitutional power to dismiss Police Minister Senzo Mchunu without first investigating allegations against him. Ramaphosa was responding in the urgent application lodged by former President Jacob Zuma and the MK party in the Constitutional Court. And a senior agricultural economist says South Africa stands to lose between 20,000 to 30,000 jobs in the citrus and sugarcane industries when the 30% tariffs are imposed by the US on South African products tomorrow. US President Donald Trump last month announced tariffs were being imposed to address what he called long-standing trade imbalances and unfair market restrictions. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Stays heavy coming out of Germiston and Alberton this morning. The N3 and N12 routes remain under pressure. A crash that's taking forever to clear by the cement factory. The N3 backs as far as Grey Avenue. The N12 is backed into Reading and back down the R59 towards Michelle Avenue. So a lot of pressure that part of town. The Mike 1 fairly slow still from Boyson's up towards Parktown. A lot of traffic in the Rosebank area, whether you're going up from the zoo or whether you're coming in from sort of Parkhurst and Parktown North. Routes like 6th and 7th Avenue to Rosebank, Chester Road, Jan Smuts, of course, up from the zoo. Big issues into that Rosebank area where there hasn't been issues like that for a while. The N1 south out of Pretoria to Joburg, still jammed from Old Joburg Road through to about Olifantsfontein before you're out of that. And the roadworks now cutting in to cause some delays. On your way to the airport, 2 lanes closed, 2 lanes open between the Bopsfontein exit and the Benoni off-ramp. Just a heads up, it's busy there now, gets really heavy in the afternoons. If you've got to travel after 3 p.m. To the airport, make sure you're checking that status before you drive through. Durban, bit of pressure around Virginia Airport on the M4, sluggish both ways today. And Cape Town, our focus has really been on the chaos around Khayelitsha and Mfuleni. Routes like Old Fora Road to the north of the N2's heavy. Spine Road going off the N2 into Khayelitsha is bad. Govan and Becky around Swartklip Road's really bad. And Baden-Powell still badly backed up to and from the N2 on the Khayelitsha-Macassar side. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
With more insights for you, let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela one more time. Ndauling, tell me about the take-home pay. Is it a trend that it's on a downward trend, but we're taking some comfort in that it's not dropping as much as it was? It's moderating in terms of the rate at which it's been dropping. Dowling? All right. I don't know why we can't hear Dowling. All right. Let's try once again, Dowling.
Hi, Plus.
Gotcha. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So it has been a trend over the past 3 to 4 months. We've seen a downturn on that front, but we are seeing that downturn moderating with the average take-home pay remaining steady in June, offering some relief to salary earners amid slowing inflation and expected lower interest rates. According to the BankServe Africa Take-Home Pay Index, nominal take-home pay decreased slightly by 0.1% to 17,310, while real take-home pay adjusted for inflation dipped 0.2%. Now, despite this minor decline, take-home pay is almost 12% higher than the same period last year. The stability in take-home pay levels, of course, a welcome respite, especially considering the economic outlook has deteriorated recently, which may impact employment and earnings prospects. Now, independent economist Elise Kruger notes that the moderation in consumer inflation has boosted the purchasing power of salary earners, with inflation forecasted to average at 3.5% this year. And this sets the stage for a potential interest rate cut, with Kruger pricing in a 25 basis point reduction today. Kruger also notes that concerns around global shocks remain on the table, but says household consumption remains strong, with retail sales up 4.3% in the first 5 months of the year. However, confidence levels have slipped and investment activity remains subdued, which could then negatively impact employment levels and earnings moving forward.
So from personal and household finances to the mining sector, tell me about Glencore and their continued optimism that they will meet their production targets.
This comes after they reported an upbeat production update. The miner's copper equivalent production rose 5% in the first half of the year due to the contribution of Alt Valley Resources' steel-making coal volumes. Now, the company's own sourced copper production, however, was 26% below the first half of 2024, and this was mainly due to lower head grades and recoveries associated with planning mining sequencing. Despite this, Glencore is confident in delivering its full-year production guidance. The group CEO, Gary Nagle, stated that the company has made progress in optimizing its business and positioning for further value accretive growth. The group is also on a cost-cutting initiative, saving about $1 billion so far this year. The company's production highlights include a 19% increase in cobalt production, driven by higher grades and volumes at one of its mines in DRC, and a 12% increase in zinc output, reflecting higher zinc grades at its Peru mine and higher MacArthur River production in Australia.
Lastly, Ntauleng, what kind of a trading day can we expect on this Thursday?
So local markets likely to be mixed following global peers. Focus today will be on the SARB, and ahead of that rates decision, the rand is downbeat, nearing 18 to the dollar, sitting at 17.97 to the greenback. And then looking at oil markets, Brent remains steady at $70 per barrel. Over in the U.S., futures are in the green following market-beating earnings from Meta and Microsoft. And then lastly, in Asia, stocks on track to end mostly in the red, and this despite some new developments on the tariff front, with the U.S. and South Korea sealing a trade deal just before the 1st of August deadline.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela there with the last update of the morning. I shall be back with more for you tomorrow morning.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2 from 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30, or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
For the love of the game.
Extraordinary doesn't just happen. It's built, brick by digital brick. With every connection, every innovation, every leap forward. A cloud that scales with your vision. Security that earns your trust. AI that empowers smarter decisions. IoT that connects what truly matters. Connectivity that bridges every gap. We're not just building technology, we're building the future of South Africa. Stronger businesses, thriving communities, a nation connected, empowered, and ready to lead. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Start your journey at vodacombusiness.co.za. Vodacom Business. Further together.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
20 minutes to 9. Let's focus on energy matters now. The Minister of Electricity, Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, congratulating Eskom for its significant progress in addressing load shedding. Currently, 8 out of the utility's 14 power stations are operating at an energy availability factor of some 70% or higher, with one station reported to be achieving an impressive 91.1% energy availability factor. So this marks a substantial improvement from the average energy availability factor, which was as low as 48% recorded at some point in early 2023. So what's behind it all? Let's speak to Eric Shanmugam, who is from Eskom, who is Engineering General Manager in the Office of the Group Executive for Generation. Good morning to you, Eric, and thank you for your time. So we've not seen our ESP apps lighting up. Those of us who receive statements from the Eskom newsroom used to dread receiving Power Alert 1 or something like that. That has not happened in a while. Tell us what's behind the improved energy availability factor on your side.
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. Thank you for having me on your show today. Thulasizwe, you'll remember very clearly when the plan was presented in March of 2023, we identified specific stations. There were 6 initially, but then moving on to 8 power stations that we focused on recovery. And through this journey over the last 2 years, addressing the plant issues, the people issues, and process issues, we are now sitting, in a very positive situation. Having said that, I think when you really look at what happened to us in the early parts of the year, we were sitting with a much higher number of breakdowns. What happened is we took advantage of the lower demand over the festive period with plant and schools shutting down. Sadly, with that, our units didn't return on time. And that put the system, into some constraints. You're aware that we had sort of 5-6 incidents from the beginning of the year, but they were short duration incidents.
Yeah.
But coming back to the recent performance, and I think as you've alluded in your introduction, what we're now starting to see, Thulasizwe, is that those breakdowns are behind us. Those units that were on slip that didn't return on time are basically behind us. And as a result, now we are starting to see these positive gains. With our average breakdown trending just below 10,000. You must remember when we talked about May 2023, we were trending around 18,000 breakdowns. So there's been a nice recovery as I speak today. But when you really look at the average over the last 24 months, we've gained close to 6,000 megawatts. So I think great improvement on the plant performance. What I also need to add is that we had the Kusile Unit 6 that came in online in March. That unit is synchronized onto the grid, but it's helping the country in terms of capacity. So we don't measure the actual availability of the unit. It goes through performance testing, and in September, when it's commercially operated, it then actually integrates into the grid, and we then count it into the availability factor.
So in other words, Eric, it's contributing to the energy needs of the country, but you're not accounting for it yet. So the figures you give us don't take account of it yet.
Yes, it could be higher. So once again, it's contributing to the capacity, but we don't measure the energy factor.
Right.
But the other positive news, Thulasizwe, is that the Medupi 4 unit, which when we had the disaster,
yes,
it's back online.
That's 800 megawatts, is it?
That's correct, 800 megawatts. So you've got the Kusile unit and the Medupi unit, and the Medupi unit does contribute to both capacity and availability. So these are positive gains. The other important factor that I need to stress, Thulasizwe, is that there were 5 stations, well, specifically 3 stations planned to be shut down. And we took these to board, and based on their performance, based on us not compromising any of the emissions standards, we've got them now contributing to its capacity in the grid. And I think, as mentioned by the Minister, we must ensure that security of supply comes first. So when you look at units like stations like Camden, Hendrina, and Kudflay, we used to refer them to as the old ladies, but they are performing extremely well. Camden performs extremely well. In fact, Grootvlei as well, as much as we've got 3 units performing extremely well. So the older units are also coming to the party in terms of helping the grid with this positive performance.
So what's the story then from Eskom as far as the winter outlook is concerned? I remember that when you were giving it a few weeks ago, or about a month ago or so, you were talking about there should be no need for load shedding as long as unplanned outages stay below 13,000 megawatts, and if they were to rise to 15,000, then load shedding would be implemented. As of early July thereabouts, you breached that 13,000 mark, but not by much. I think it was 13,167 megawatts at the beginning of this month. Does that outlook still hold for the rest of the winter?
So spot on. I think you've picked up the facts correctly. The one thing we talked about is that as per the winter outlook, as long as we stay below 13,000, great, we will keep load shedding at bay with some support, using some of our diesel resources over the evening peaks, but for very short duration. But the one factor that you and I talked about is the Kusile 6 unit. So Kusile 6, producing that 800 into the grid, that you are not seeing is helping the country in the capacity. So when we did breach the 13,000, the Kusile 6 unit was in. Okay? So that's why we didn't have the load shedding. But having said that, I think looking at where we are now trending, below 11,000, with the winter outlook, where we've stated that we should be below 13, things are looking very positive. And towards the end of August, we would be in a position to start announcing the summer outlook for the next 6 months.
And as far as the open cycle gas turbines go, you just mentioned it. Say a bit more there then in terms of how it's trending, because you will know at the end of this conversation, I wouldn't be surprised if 1 or 2 people reflect on the cost of it all. It runs into the billions whenever you have to resort to that to keep the lights on.
Right. So if you remember very clearly, in the previous financial year, we declared that we used over 32 billion rand on diesel resources, and this was as a trade-off against load shedding. So when you compare that cost to the country's cost, it was still cheaper, as much as Eskom took the knock. We then reduced that budget for this coming year to 21. So there's a 10 billion drop in that budget. If you really look at year to date, we are performing extremely well against that budget, and we've been very clear that when you start looking at post-July, August, when the other Koeberg unit, which is now an outage, comes back online, that should put us in a very favorable position. So in terms of the diesel performance, if you really look at what we've planned for this year, we are still basically within our budget. And based on the present performance, it should actually trend now more positively moving into the coming months. And one of the key issues being pushed by our GC is to say, moving into next year, how do we now depend more on the Eskom fleet and less dependence on the diesel to support? But you need to appreciate when we did install these diesel resources, it is there. So there's 2 support reserves that we use. One is our pump storage, and then we have our diesel storage. So when we do have these abnormal peaks, we bring in these resources once again to prevent load shedding.
Yeah. Lastly, Eric, the risk of elongating this conversation between you and I, every time you answer something, there's a question that's triggered. So you mentioned the Koeberg unit that's meant to be returning. Is that still on track to return? Is it around early August, thereabouts?
Yeah. The plan is we've said August, to the middle or end of August. Those plans are still on track. In terms of the feedback I have, Thulasizwe.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for that explanation. That's Eric Shanmagam, who is from Eskom, where he is Engineering General Manager in the Office of the Group Executive for Generation.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very slow coming out of Germiston and Alberton. A crash near the cement factory on the N3 North much earlier this morning, taking forever to clear away. It's heavy from Grey Avenue, and it's all badly backed up on the N12 back in through the Reading interchange onto R59 North. So trying to get up from Spraitview or come in from the Vaal, come across from Oakden or out of Alberton, Germiston. It's a heavy one today. A lot of pressure into Rosebank. We're still trying to find a reason for this. Up on Jan Smuts from the Zoo side, it's very heavy. Coming across from Emmarentia or the top end there through Parkhurst and Parktown North, 6th Street onto 7th Avenue. Some very unusual backlogging going into that Rosebank area. Ballabongwe is quite heavy coming through President for sharing the N1 in towards the Ferndale side this morning. Lots of lights out there. And of course the R21 is queuing into the roadworks just after the Bupsfontein exit on your way to the airport. 2 lanes are closed. If you're leaving Pretoria for flight connections, make sure you are checking before you travel. It gets particularly heavy in the afternoons, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. You can hit 45 to 50 minute delays there. Durban, the M2 North, still a bit sluggish, getting up through the Westwood Mall area into the roadworks. There's also a stationary truck on the southbound side just after Mugena Road, which is slowing things up. Cape Town, N2 inbound from Langa to Hospital Bends, busy. M3, M5 getting up in towards the sort of N2 highway. That's all very slow. And a lot of pressure still around Khayelitsha this morning. Govan and Becky between Muway and Swat Clips heavy. Old Fora Road up through Mfoleni, solid Spine Road going into Khayelitsha off the N2's bad, and the N2 queuing out towards the Baden-Powell off-ramp as you pass by Khayelitsha. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
SA Sport Awards reflect our collective nation-building spirit. Mzansi's sport heroes and heroines have shown resilience, persistence, passion, discipline, and world-class achievements in the sports fraternity. Nominees will be announced in August. Let us celebrate #IsInJustAGame. Catch the 18th Annual SA Sport Awards on Sunday 24 August at 7:30 p.m. on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, then on SABC 1 at 8 p.m. Brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture in partnership with SASCOG and SABC Sport. Celebrating sporting excellence.
The Atlas Lions are roaring to grab a win in their tournament opener. Meanwhile, the Angolans refuse to bite the dust. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Morocco versus Angola this Sunday, 3 August at 5 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let me go straight to the WhatsApp voice notes. One reflecting on what we reported was found by the Health Ombud in relation to the Northern Cape Mental Health Hospital and the Robert Sobukwe Hospital out in the Northern Cape. And then someone wants to talk about President Ramaphosa, and yet another person wants to talk about former President Jacob Zuma.
Morning, Tulas. Good show. Tulas, I think the MEC of Health in Northern Cape is is slipping, because you can't have a malfunctional institution under your nose. And these are the kind of people that they are leading this country. It's really scary to have such people in power.
All right, Thulasizwe, tell me, is it a prerogative of the President of South Africa to create new posts for the ministers? I want to call it, in inverted commas, new posts for the ministers in South Africa. Yet from time to time, you'll hear the treasurer saying there's no money to hire public servants like teachers, nurses, and doctors. What exactly is happening with Ramaphosa?
Introduced all nations.
Morning, Bratulas, and thanks for the show, brother. Yo, Jacob Zuma, what do you want from Ramaphosa? Because he was removed from the party. He fight all the sides, east, west, south, north, both sides. It's terrible. He's gugile, man. He must eat his pension at Nkandla.
In fairness, former President Jacob Zuma is leader of MK Party, which is the official opposition in parliament. That's how it is. That's how it works. Even in provinces where, let's say the Western Cape, where the ANC is the second largest party, is it? I think it is, yeah. That makes them the official opposition. So therefore, you keep the people in power on their toes, and you're constantly challenging, and the strategy is always multi-pronged. On the streets, you are marching. In parliament, you are doing what you're doing. In the courts, keep them busy. And my goodness, is former President Zuma and the MK party keeping the president busy, at least on this particular score. And the point that was made about prerogative, that's a word that, not many like you will have heard yesterday in the arguments in court, that we don't really talk about prerogative. Yes, it is a prerogative, but it's kept in check by the controls within our constitution. But you're absolutely right. I don't think there's a prescription of how many cabinet positions the president can fill, how many people he can appoint to the executive. You just need to be sensible, I suppose, if you are in that position of being a president. Just be sensible. And then it's up to the voters to decide, is this sensible? Can you have a cabinet, an executive of 70, 80 people, and in conditions in which we are told that there's a sustainability issue and a fiscal issue in the country. So I suppose it boils down to judgment by the voters, whether you think they are being prudent or not with the resources at hand. Veli in Kuma, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning, Thulas.
Good morning.
Thulas, man. I'm just responding actually to one of your callers who was talking about evaluating one's performance.
Yes.
And then you slightly suggested that, okay, now we should wait for the elections, and then then the evaluation would come up from the elections results. In my opinion, the caller was on point to last,
Sure.
Following the corruption that is taking place in municipality anyway. So he was suggesting that you've got what you call planning, monitoring, and evaluation. I like that phrase or that sentence.
Yes.
Planning, monitoring, and evaluation. Now, I like most, after planning, you monitor your staff
Yes.
or your people. You evaluate them.
Yes.
And then I would love that. Let them be evaluated from time to time or periodically. We
Yes.
should not wait, like you suggested,
Yeah.
for the elections to come.
Yeah. I hear
Because
you.
really,
Yeah.
So the horses shall have bolted when the election
it will be too late. Thank you for that, Vili. I suppose what I understood was about the performance of politicians, but by no means am I suggesting that in terms of the technocrats and other people in the bureaucracy that you should wait until then. Not even for the politicians, by the way, Vili. You are welcome to continue to express your discontent and your feedback and evaluation through other forms of expression. You can march, you can do all of these things in between the elections. But I was saying, ultimately, your final report scorecard will come at the elections, where you deliver a verdict as a voter that says, we've seen enough, we're changing, or we want to see more. David in the Northern Cape, you're my last caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Thulas. How are you?
Very well. Please go ahead. Keep it short and sharp.
All right. I'm not surprised about the findings that was outlined on the mental health in Kimberley. But there is this tendency with the Northern Cape Department of Health. It is too much lack of service delivery, because of now they keep on appointing people that are not capable of doing jobs in Kimberley. I mean, we had Northern Cape long time ago with Thuli Madonsela reports. If ombudsman can come here and do auditing for all the, even the district hospitals, I can guarantee you, all of them they will be closed.
Sure. Wow.
All of them they will be closed. The way it's bad, and when other people comes in and try to assist, they reject such people. You understand that? So it's really bad.
Yeah.
I think it's the West Northern Cape Department of Health in the whole country.
Right. David, let's leave it there for this morning.
Okay,
thank you
thank
for
you very
that.
much.
Hopefully we can line up a conversation with the Premier of the Northern Cape, because I remember when he first came in, the issue of health was one of those issues that were always going to be at the top of his areas of focus. But for now, we are completely out of time. Stay tuned. More quality programming coming your way, including and starting with the talking point immediately after the news with N. Musa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and you've been briefed.
In our top stories, Constitutional Court to deliver judgment in Makate's Please Call Me case, and Ramaphosa argues he couldn't dismiss Mkhunu without probing allegations. Good morning. The Constitutional Court will today hand down its judgment in the long-drawn legal battle between Nkosana Makate and Vodacom. The Apex Court will rule on whether the Supreme Court of Appeal acted beyond its jurisdiction in setting aside the 47 million rand compensation for Makate made by Vodacom. Judgment is expected to be delivered at 10 o'clock this morning. Rifilwe Mekwa reports.
The case, which has dragged on for over 2